Morning, just a sound check for everybody joining the session. Thank you for your time and joining us today. Great having you guys on board. We're just admitting more people to the session. We will start in about 5 minutes' time. Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. This is the Transport Forum. Jan, just a moment for me. Right, the system's saying I'm muted, so we will try and sort that out. Jan, just a sound check. You can hear me talking. Great stuff. Ladies and gents, yeah, great being here today. It is the 8th of February, 2024. It is the first event for 2024, and we've been looking forward to get the Transport Forum going again. We had quite an exciting Transport Forum year last year. Last year, we had more than 36 events only in 1 year. And here we go again with our first event for 2024. And we know there are going to be many more. Ladies and gents, today we've been proudly hosted at KUBA at the offices here in Braamfontein, Empire Road in Johannesburg. And they're hosting us today, so we're very proud to be with KUBA. And we're talking about innovation in public transport. And that we know is crucial to have public transport working in South Africa. And we've got a great panel of speakers who's going to present today. I'm not going to waste your time to try and read through the program. Jan, if you can give us the program, I'll appreciate it. There we go. So I will do the introduction. As you know, that this events are complementary, all the Transport Forum events. So obviously there are valid sponsors who are sponsoring this and the Transport Forum and making the forum for us possible. And we would like to give recognition to our valued sponsors. Thereafter, Michael Hart, our host for today, will do the formal welcome. So, looking at our sponsors, and what I want to say is those are the sponsors, but I want to draw your attention to an important thing, and that is that we're going to have a quiz. All right, I just want to see there's my quiz picture. Those very nice big magneto lights, very handy nowadays. We're going to do a quiz, and this quiz, we're going to have two people being able to win these little LED lights, and this will be couriered to you. So what you're going to do is you listen carefully while we're talking about our sponsors, all right? And at the end of that, we're going to ask some questions about our sponsors. And the person who is answering the question right, the first one who answers the question right, he will be the winner of that prize, and that will be couriered to you. So obviously we will be in contact with you to get get your address. Unfortunately, can only do this with domestic, local people. So bear that in mind. So ladies and gents, back to quickly my sponsors again. So there they are, and we're going to quickly have a look at them. We're very proud to have associates with the Transport Forum, and you can see these are professional bodies who joined the Transport Forum formally. Obviously, there are many other institutions and associations involved, but these are in a formal agreement with Transport Forum. And let's quickly have a look at them. So here we've got the South African Express Parcel Association, Gary Marshall and his team. So they represent the body and voice of the express delivery industry in South Africa. Thank you very much, SAPA. And we've got the South African Bus Operators Association. You can see they, represent the bus and the coach industry. They played a vital role in the social and economic development of our current country, already established in 1980. So great work Saboa is doing. Thank you, Shamini Naidu, and your team, many years adding value to the South African bus and coach industry. All right, we've got the South African Association of Freight Forwarders. Would like to play a video of this great association.
What does it take to compete on the world stage? To go head to head with the best of the best? Excellence, agility, resilience, the willingness to keep on evolving. It takes courageous leadership to be bold and chart the course, to connect the dots, bringing stakeholders together, to overcome the hurdles we all face, and to deliver best practice. It's about business at the click of a button, delivering at the speed of the internet, connecting people, products, and places, strengthening our supply chains, faster and more cost-effective than ever. Since 1921, we've given voice and vision to the freight forwarding industry, navigating the tides of international trade, evolving ever more sophisticated supply chains, bridging local and global markets to move our economy forward. Welcome to our world. The South African Association of Freight Forwarders, architects of transport for over a century.
Thank you very much. So we also have got the Road Freight Association. Their slogan is "Without trucks, South Africa stops." South African Road Freight Association. Great stuff. Thank you very much, Kevin Kelly and your team, for your support. We've got ARIA, African Rail Industry Association. You can see they say their mission is to advocate for the rail industry and third-party access to the country's railway network, rethinking rail and connecting Africa. Thank you very much, ARIA, and Marcelo and Slapo and her team. Safer Stops Association, you can see uniting minds, sharing vision and resources, uplifting well-being, boosting road safety for South Africa's commercial drivers. Thank you very much, Nikki Scott and team. Safer Stops Association. Important work you guys are doing. We've also got formal media alliances, and there are many coming, joining in actually. Let's have a look quickly at them. We've got Engineering News. You can see premier source of real economy news, daily coverage of South Africa's transport and automotive sectors, accurate and timely news reported. Thank you very much, Screamer Media, for your Engineering News. Really appreciate your support. We've got Freight News. You can see the news and features for import and export decision makers, all about logistics. Ladies and gents, obviously, if you're not subscribed to these companies and organizations and magazines, you're losing out big time. Then we've got Railways Africa Magazine. Railways Africa Magazine, that's the magazine, Philippa Dean and her team. You can see the African continent specialist trade and technical business-to-business online publication covering all aspects of the rail sector. Published weekly online. Thank you very much, Railways Africa. All right, here we at our hosting company today. I'm not going to say anything at this moment because Michael Hart will just now introduce you to our host for today. We're very thankful for KUBA for hosting us today. Then we have C-Track. C-Track is the platinum sponsor of the Transport Forum. You can see the leading provider of innovative telematic solutions. Our Crystal software platform offers scalable modules that empower business to expand and succeed. These include video and camera surveillance, advanced analytics capabilities, and planning and ePod, all in one platform, also accessible from mobile devices. Let's have a look at the great C-Track video.
In 4 decades that we've been keeping vehicles and business equipment safe and always visible. And we've learned a thing or two along the way. That's why our focus is firmly on the future. A future that goes beyond just tracking and reporting, challenging the status quo, and exploring what the power of technology, combined with AI, can unlock for your business. Because talking did not earn us the reputation of being the leader in fleet telematics solutions. Pushing boundaries with constant innovation did, and putting our customers first by asking, what if, what's next, and what's possible? For the power of foresight over hindsight to plan ahead and make smarter decisions. What if you could predict the optimal route to increase on-time deliveries and significantly reduce long-term maintenance? What if you could predict the best tractor speed on the day to reduce wasted spray and cover more ground with precision? Or if something as trivial as a few centimeters could predict the difference between maximum efficiency or maximum risk? Because in our world, and likely in yours too, having insights that can be used as foresight with a crystal clear view of the future is the only thing that matters to remain ahead for better control, better efficiencies, and better overall performance. It's the telematics and AI solution that goes beyond tracking and reporting. Step into the future with Crystal by C-Track and experience the power to predict.
Thank you so much, C-Track, and the great product, Crystal. Ladies and gents, I'd like to introduce you to University of Johannesburg, the Department of Transport and Supply Chain Management. They've also got the Institute for Logistics and Transport Studies. They've been part of the Transport Forum since inception, also mentoring myself quite a lot, so we're very thankful for University of Johannesburg and their support. Thank you very much. Right, Standard Bank, over 160 years of experience, ladies and gents. They're also a gold sponsor of the Transport Forum. So let's have a look. We're linking up to YouTube here. Let's have a look at their video.
The group purpose is Africa is our home, we drive the growth. And driving Africa's growth goes to the nature of an institution that we are, which is an organization that is at the center of the economy, giving people the ability to pay, to borrow, to invest, and by ensuring their assets. We do all of this to fulfill that purpose of a financial institution, which is to help people to become active economic agents and contribute to economic growth.
We have found increasingly that we need to impact the communities that we operate in a very positive manner. We need to conduct our business in line with international best practices. We signed up to the Equator Principles, which helps to protect our environment. We want to make sure that we're investing in infrastructure. We want to make sure that we're deepening financial services so that more and more people have access to financial services.
You can never provide a full service offering to the clients if you don't do so on the basis of an integrated standard bank offering, i.e. a universal bank. When we look at types of projects and companies and individuals that we fund, we have to be sensitive to the impact that they make on those communities. Do they contribute meaningfully? Are they ethical in their own behavior? Are they sensitive to issues of environment? Are they sensitive to the way they undertake and develop their own projects and initiatives? And Standard Bank believes very, very strongly in ensuring that ultimately the growth that we desire is a growth that benefits everyone.
We finance the building of airports, bridges, ports, which contribute to economic growth and contribute to the hard infrastructure that society needs for development.
How do we show up in such a way that is real and human in our customers? And it goes both ways. How do we see customers as individuals, but how do we also show up not as a monolithic bank, but as a human bank, as a local bank? And you might say that it's sort of is a bit of a paradox because we're a universal bank. It's true, but we are a universal bank that feels local, that feels real.
Countries in Africa embrace democracy, embrace good macroeconomic policies, they will attract foreign capital, into their economies. And we as a group are well positioned to access those capital flows and also help drive investments in the right sectors.
Thank you so much, Standard Bank, for your gold sponsorship. Ladies and gents, we've got a new company who's joined the Transport Forum as a gold sponsor, Control Fleet. You can see they say execute like never before. So that's Control Fleet, execute like never before. Let's have a quick look at their video.
At Control Fleet, innovation is at the heart of every decision we make. We execute like never before. Our features include planning, scheduling, driver application, and our value proposition is continuous value and execution for you. We love logistics and transport operations, our clients, and our aim is to provide them with new age technology, innovate their business, and take them to the future.
Thank you very much, Control Fleet. Really appreciate your support. That is it. Then we've got Global Trade Solution. You can see this is all about imports and exports, consulting and strategy, software solutions, specialized services. Thank you very much, Global Trade Solution. You can see they're talking about innovative solutions, transforming global supply chain. Then we've got Bid Cargo. Also a gold sponsor with Transport Forum for many years. Let's have a look at their great video.
In the world of express freight, there's one name that stands above the rest, Bid Cargo. Our airport-to-airport line haul service is the backbone of South Africa's express freight industry. At Bid Cargo, we don't just deliver cargo. We go the extra mile to ensure a seamless and efficient experience in South Africa. With our unwavering commitment to excellence and improved technology, we handle your cargo with utmost care and deliver it on time, every time. Our dedication to service excellence is what sets us apart. We live by our core values of service excellence, mutual respect, integrity, and accountability. When you choose Bid Cargo, You're choosing a partner that takes pride in going above and beyond for your freight needs. From pharmaceuticals to perishable goods, automotive parts to live animal transportation, we handle a diverse range of commodities. Our attention to detail and precision ensure that your cargo arrives in perfect condition, no matter what it is. Our dedicated teams work tirelessly to guarantee the safety and efficient transport of your cargo. We leave no stone unturned to ensure your freight arrives at its destination intact and on time. With our advanced track and trace system, you can monitor your shipments in real time. Stay informed about the whereabouts of your cargo with just a few clicks. Our goal is to provide you with peace of mind and complete transparency throughout the entire journey. We understand that time is of the essence for our valued customers. That's why we offer a user-friendly online portal that simplifies the documentation process. Obtain quotations and create e-labels with ease, saving you valuable time and effort. Whether you have a small package or a large shipment, Bid Air Cargo handles it all with equal care and precision. Our ISO certification is a testament to our commitment to quality and professionalism. We don't just excel in domestic express freight, we also cater to your international cargo needs. No matter the size of your business, whether you're a small enterprise or a multinational corporation, you can trust us to handle your cargo with the same level of dedication and attention to detail. Connect with us today and discover the difference our innovative technology, seamless tracking, and customer-oriented approach will make to your operation. Bid Air Cargo, same-day express every day, overnight express every night.
Thank you very much, Bid Air Cargo. Ladies and gents, it's Zutari. They say impact is engineered, impact engineered, consulting engineering organization, also been known as Oracan. They've been part of the Transport Forum for many, many years as gold sponsor. We really appreciate their sponsorship. Thank you very much, Zutari. We really appreciate your support. We've got Unitrans Supply Chain Solutions, innovation, expertise delivered. So they are a leading provider of integrated transportation, warehousing, and supply chain-based services to customers with a variety of needs, offering bespoke value propositions in each segment. Thank you very much, Unitrans. Proud to be associated with this big brand. JC Auditors, certification, compliance, one solution. They are a SANAS accredited certification body providing internationally recognized certifications. You can see also part with the RTMS, the Road Transport Management System. Ladies and gents, compliance is so important today, especially for self-regulation, and that entails a lot, driver safety and so on. So thank you very much, JC Auditors, for the important work you guys are doing. Easy Clear, software solutions for customs clearing, freight forwarding, and logistics providers, covering air, sea, road, and rail. Thank you very much, Easy Clear, for your sponsorship. Really appreciate it. We've got the Ticket Pro Group. They actually sponsoring two brands with the Transport Forum. This one is the online booking tool. You can see they talk about no contracts, no hidden fees, just good business with straightforward, fair pricing. So this is a very convenient online corporate travel booking tool with everything you need and nothing you don't want. Thank you very much, Ticket Pro Travel, for your sponsorship. So also Ticket Pro Travel, they've got the Smart Tap solution. So this includes key features like comprehensive route management, flexible passenger payment methods, flexible route and fare product setup, shift and dispatch management, cashier system, inspection tools, and comprehensive MIS projects. Thank you very much, Ticket Pro Smart Tap. So there they are, ladies and gents. Very proud to have these sponsors and industry associates aligned with the Transport Forum. There they are. And now it's time for a little bit of fun. Jan, if you can get the chat room open and you can keep an eye there on who's going to answer the questions, right? We really appreciate that. Fortunately, we've also got, a record of the chat room afterwards to make sure that we've been right. But I'm going to ask 2 questions about our sponsors. And let's see if you can answer it right. So the first person answering the question right is the winner of one of those Magneto LED lights. So the first question is, who is our hosting company today? Jan, have you got a name for us? The first one. Yeah, the top one. And there too. That's on there too. All right, congratulations. We will have a look at the record, and congratulations. We will make sure that the prize is couriered to you. And obviously the answer was KUBA. So the next question is, what association has got a slogan, "Without trucks, South Africa stops"? Without trucks, South Africa stops. That's not right, that one. The right answer is the RFA. As Zoko, congratulations. You've won the second prize, and we'll make sure that that's couriered to you. So congratulations to our winners. Great having some fun, and we see we've got some good listeners, so great stuff. Right, ladies and gentlemen, I just want to remind you of the Transport Forum's business directory. Very well categorized directory that you can have your company listed. With the Transport Forum, it's only 450 rands per annum, so that's not really money. And we've got Olga Mashilu from Boleng Bontle Consultant. This is a BE initiative being outsourced to a company. She will also invoice you straight at 450 rands, and she will help you to get categorized. You'll receive also an email after this event requesting your feedback on this event, and that's very important for us. Please to have your feedback. Also, we're asking you for some suggestions, what topics should we entertain in the future. So that's important. But in that email, we will also ask you whether you would like Olga to get into contact with you, and so that you can have your company listed. So great stuff on that. Ladies and gents, also the presentations you see here today, and obviously those presented almost over the past almost 17 years, more than 900 of them, are available from the Transport Forum website, complimentary. That website there you see there, transportseek.com, under the downloads feature. I'll show you now. So to be able to access them, you need to go to the left of your screen. When you're on that website, you need to log in before you can access the presentation. Should you not have an account yet, then you just click on sign up, and you follow a little simple registration process, and you can then obviously log in. So once you've logged in, you can go to the events and downloads option, and you will get a very simple little search engine. The top field there, you can type in a title of a topic, and you can hit search, and the title of a description. You hit search, and it will search through all 900 presentations and bring up anything that's related to what you've typed in there. Or you can go to category, you can select the day's date, and hit search, and it'll bring up that events presentations for you to download complimentary. So that's a very, very powerful knowledge base. So ladies and gentlemen, this is now bringing us to our program. And you can see we've got a great program. We've got KUBA is going to present, our host later on. Michael Hart is going to do the welcome in just a moment. We also got then Mr. Tsepo Kabe, who's the new Chief Executive Officer of the Gautrain Management Agency. We've got Mr. Kagiso Kuhale from KUBA, South Africa. We've got Mr. Graham Fritz from Santaku. Unfortunately, the president himself was called in this morning in a very urgent meeting, but Mr. Graham Fritz is very much important enough to have us for today, and we're very proud having him here. Then we'll take a short break, and thereafter we'll have then our host presenting. You can see his topic: how can payments innovation support safe and seamless travel in South Africa? Very important. And then we'll have Lawrence Swanepoel from Tshwane, City of Tshwane, who will talk about the future outlook for public transport. At the end, we will have a panel discussion where you as an audience will have the opportunity to ask questions to our panelists. And you'll see all the panelists sitting on screen. You'll be able to engage with them. A good idea if you want to as well, you can pop questions in the chat room. Then we can attend to that when we get to the panel discussion. So we're not going to encourage any questions during the presentations. We'll take questions at the end during the panel discussion. So at the panel discussion, you will be given the opportunity to unmute once you've been recognized by myself, and you will be able to ask a question to the panelist. So that's our program. So just bear with us. We just want to get our screen set up here, and then I will introduce you to Michael Hart. Just bear with us for a moment. Right, ladies and gents, here is our host for today, Mr. Michael Hart, and he's going to do the formal welcome from the UK. Thank you very much, Michael.
Thank you, Harry, and good morning, everybody. My name is Michael Hart. I'm Chief Revenue Officer and one of the founders of KUBA Group, and it is my pleasure to welcome Transport Forum speakers and guests into our home in Johannesburg. I just wished that I was there with you in person rather than stuck here in a very cold, miserable and dark Europe. I'm sure that the team led by Danny Ross and Søren will make you very welcome. They'll look after you. We're excited to be able to show you around our offices, test labs and products after the event if you're there in person. But for now, I'm not going to go through a huge introduction to us. I'm not going to go through any more detail other than welcoming you all to our home in Johannesburg and handing back to Harry now to start the meat of today's activity.
Thank you so much, Michael. Really appreciate your support. You've been guiding us also a lot in the past, so thank you very much. Really appreciate it. And it's great being here at the KUBA offices in Johannesburg. We really appreciate it. And we look forward to your presentation a little bit later on in the program. Thank you so much, Michael.
Thank you.
Right, ladies and gents, just bear with us. We're just going to get Mr. Tsepo Kopo on the set, and then we will introduce him formally. So thank you very much. Just bear with us. Ladies and gents, yes, we've got Mr. Tsepo Kobe, and he is the newly appointed CEO of the Gautrain Management Agency. Tsepo, thank you very much for always supporting the Transport Forum. We're really proud having you with us, and you've been guiding us quite a lot in the past as well. So thank you very much, and we've been looking forward to the presentation today. All over to you, innovation in public transport. Thank you very much, Tsepo.
Thank you, Harry, and thank you for having me. And thank you to all the sponsors for always supporting the Transport Forum. When I was asked to speak about innovation in public transport, a CEO's perspective, a number of issues came up, and I needed to think through what could we talk about. But I'll go through the slides now. Hopefully, I'll be able to make it in 20 minutes, Harry. Okay, the slides are not moving. Okay, we are well on our way. It is said longevity in business is about being able to reinvent yourself and reinventing the future. Now, how do we go about having this conversation? What is innovation in transport? I will look at context as a whole. I will look at priorities of what do they call it. I'll look at issues of generative AI, competing technology, the path to net zero, train technologies, last mile services, and powering our commercialization and creating an insight. What is the context that we're talking about? The issue that lies in all of this is simple and straightforward. Who is the committer that we're doing this for? The future committer is technologically adapted. They are clear about what they want. They see a vehicle as a commodity rather than something they need to own. They feel increased access to information works well for them. They have a high demand for convenience. To them, time and cost savings are priority, and they want variety in everything that we do. What does that mean? It means you now have a committee that's not loyal to anybody, and they will use the best mode of transport to be able to travel to where they want to go. These are some of the trends that came out of a study that was done post-COVID. Now, biggest issue is that people no more travel at the time that they used to travel on. Peak periods are no more as they were. They have flattened off, and peak periods are the entire day. Ticketing systems, nobody wants to buy season tickets anymore. You can't sell anybody a monthly ticket. Location, is central business district still the place to travel to? That one is still out for what they call to the judges to be able to determine. Demographics, we have much more of a younger customer traveling on the system and much more lower income travelers on the system. Now, what does that mean? It means we have to think differently about our growth. And that growth means like we'll have to think about vertically, how do we become better? What they call 10 times what we could ever be. And then horizontally, we'll have to look at how we grow the system as a whole. Today, I'm going to be spending a lot more time on becoming 10 times what we are rather than on the extensions themselves. Now, business is hard, and we have to be clear about that. It has been shown that in terms of all companies that have grown, in the last 5 years, only 13% of global companies have actually managed to grow in double digits. And in actual fact, we're just pegging them at the level where they are growing at 10%. Everybody is growing at single digits. And in actual fact, the average growth in companies is actually about 2.5%. Now, if you look at it and you then disaggregate the data and said, organic growth in companies where companies are just growing because they exist and they function very well, has only been in and around 6% companies that are able to grow organically at the 10% level. 23% of the companies have grown properly in what's called inorganic growth. It means you have to then have a developmental and a transformative measure put into the company for you to be able to change how they move forward. That in itself means your business has to change at all levels, at the level of the infrastructure, at the level of the service and operations, at the level in which it affects the area it operates in, and then ultimately at the level where then it creates impact for the citizens. We can't ignore COVID. COVID happened and it is still there. And the question we are asking as the Gauteng is that as we recover from COVID, do we just do it the normal way? And in actual fact, what becomes the delta in such a way that we create a new growth trajectory? What are the CEO's priorities in 2024? McKinsey and company have listed the following. Generative AI goes from proof of concept to scale, which means now we are now playing with the big boys. How to outcompete with technology? Companies can no more just outcompete each other on organic growth. Technology is a big part of that. We have to talk about the biggest reallocation of our lifetime, the path to net zero. What does that mean and how do we change everything else? The road to growth is very difficult, as I've shown you earlier on. What is your superpower? What do you stand for as a business as a whole? Those are the things that you need to be clear about as a CEO. Learn to love the middle managers. The middle managers have always been ignored, and most of the time we spend a lot of time retraining and training either senior managers or very junior employees. And it is time that now you organically look at your business as a whole. Geopolitics, how do you beat the odds? There's nothing you can do. What has happened in Ukraine has happened. What is happening in the Middle East is happening. And therefore, how do you continue to survive through all of that? A new lens on macroeconomics. What we found post-COVID is that there is actually no trends. You actually cannot be able to predict anything at all anymore. And therefore, how do you navigate that? And how do you become adapted in this world where everything changes all the time? I'm waiting for the slides to change. Now, the issue of generative AI, as you look at the list of 8 items that you have to look at, I am only going to talk to you about only 3 of them. The first one is generative AI and how it has changed business and it's continuing to change business. And also I'll give you use cases of how we are using it to be able to do exactly that. Now, just quickly, let's define a few terms so that we are all on the same page. What is generative AI? It's a type of AI that can create new content, either be it text, code, images, videos, using patterns it has learned from it being trained from machine learning. Foundation models are an important issue. We all talk about machine learning, but you have to be able to create deep learning models that train vast quantities of structured and unstructured and even unlabeled data that can be used for a wide range of tasks. There's also large language models that you have to talk about. And those means that when you're looking at non-clear data, which is then more language-based, how do you work with that? And then there's the process of fine-tuning, which is where you take the foundation models and your AI and teach it to be able to create much more clearer patterns through you being able to understand what is going on in the background. And then you have to continuously re-engineer the models as a whole. Now, this is an important model. It might be a bit faint, but what does this do? This is the future of bots in transport as a whole. And this is about how do you actually automate most difficult systems, which is actually managing your customer from making their decisions at a point when they are requesting a service, ultimately to then you being able to, and most of the services can actually be managed without you actually being there. And it can be done from machine learning. And in the first part, you have a customer requesting a service and the chatbot responds. From the chatbot responding, then it then asks a few questions, and from the questions being answered, then the next bit of it is when now a customer makes a decision to then say, well, I don't like the answer you've given me. And in turn, the model then reorganizes itself to be clear about what do we do with the fact that the answer you've given to the customer, they don't like it. Then ultimately from then onwards, then it then gets to a point where then you can then move swiftly to the human interaction so that you can then assist the customer properly. How do you apply that in real life? Now, this is an app that we developed during COVID times, and we call it When You're Busy How app in itself. Now, that app was intended to be able to manage overcrowding on the system as a whole. And what it intends to do is, in its simplicity, on 3 clicks, you're able to say, I want to travel at this particular time. And the system tells you at that particular time, most trains are full. And in essence, if you use the system here or use the system over there, with us now being able to spread our peak, where you suggest that a customer can travel much earlier or much later, that allows you to then be able to redirect the customer in such a way that they'll travel in comfort. Now, but in the previous model that I showed you, in actual fact, most of these decisions are done from machine learning. And over time, you are able to redirect the customer the right way without you struggling. And that happens in milliseconds. Obviously, we also have to look at how the AI technology stack works out. One of the things that we raise sharply is the fact that in everything that you do not forget that the light blue side of the system, which is actually your policies and your cybersecurity issues, can actually be managed properly from AI more than anything else. But one of the things you have to learn from this model in its clarity is that you need to know where your data is, how it interrelates to everything else. And then secondly, then how the user interface itself then gives the technology stack its real life portion, where people are able to see what is going on without them interacting with the various APIs that sit in the system. It is an important issue that you understand that at the back of all of this, you need to actually make sure that the cybersecurity issues are managed properly. And ultimately, as you can see in the model, what used to be your big software, your ERP systems and everything else, it's only but a small part of the ecosystem. And with AI, you can then generate information that sits in your systems and recreate it in such a way that it gives you insights and gives you better apps that allow your customers and everybody else to function in your system properly. Now, with us, what it allows us to do now in managing our data, it allows us to be able to take very complex data, which is actually the train information, the customer information, the analytics that sits over it, and then integrate all our train services and then improve our services and reconfigure it all around. Now, when you look at this data here, on the top part, you've got the service itself. On the bottom part, you've got the manner in which customers or commuters arrive on the system as a whole. Now, in a normal sense of it, this would not be easy for us to compute how the two interrelate with each other. And then ultimately, then we recreate our service in such a way that it fits the pattern by which people want to travel. The old days where you just push out the schedule and then assume that the commuter will take what you give does not work anymore. We have seen clearly, in particular the rail business, it has lagged behind by 40 to 30% in its recovery overall. It is because we are very structured, but very strict about how we change issues and very stagnant as a whole. Whereas this with AI, then with generative AI, it gives us the ability to actually give us a customer responsive schedule to the system as a whole. Now, we cannot talk about all of this without talking about what is the architecture that you need all around in terms of your strategy. Ultimately, you have to align in value. Your digital business and your business is digital in essence, and it has to be led from the top. The most senior person in the business, in this case, in the Gautrain, it's me as what they call as the CEO, has to be the one that carries the vision for digital. It is not something that gets done by IT or by the CDO somewhere else in the background. Secondly, you have to have the ability to deliver the capability you want to put online. First, you need the talent. You also need the operating model that allows AI to function in your business. Then you need to then allow technology to be used in your business as a whole and have the ability to manage your data all around. And then from then onwards, you have to have the ability to adopt and scale, because you have the ability to be able to look at it as what kind of a business are you in the whole digital transformation sector? Are you a taker? Are you a shaper? Or are you a creator? What is a taker? A taker is somebody who uses general AI models that sits and are available on the internet as a whole. A shaper is somebody who uses, or it's a business that takes those models and then recreate them in such a way that they optimize them and create new models out of those. Now, the cost between the two is completely different. And then a creator is somebody who creates new AI models from the beginning. Now, not everybody can afford to create AI models from the beginning. So in essence, what that means is that most people will either fall, or most companies will either fall into being a shaper or a taker. And most business in general are takers, so they do not have the ability to do that. Now, if you were to think about in terms of scale, overall, the cost of using an AI model off the shelf, it will probably be between $500,000 to $2 million. When you go to shapers as a whole, that business goes from being $2 million to almost $10 million of what you spend. If you want to create your own models, you can even talk in excess of $100 million to create things like that. Now, you actually have to choose where you will operate in terms of AI as a whole. We have to think about outcompeting with technology. And here we will look at just a few things that are now new in the railways, or we are now pushing quite heavily in the railways as a whole. First and foremost, you have to create open ecosystems. And those ecosystems means various platforms can interrelate with your information, and people can then regenerate and create new information from the information that you already have. And that allows operators themselves to be able to have the ability to manage your information from a central position. And then the passenger has access to the same data in a different format. And authorities like ourselves look at the data from a different perspective. Now, the open AI ecosystem then allows us to be able to actually use AI in a much better manner. We also have to think about long-term wise, what we call the sensing railway line. Overall, we have to move from where things get measured physically to the point where there are sensors all around. And we now are talking about a digital railway line, which will minimize but create more efficiencies all around. And it will take away the human error or the human factors portion of what has caused accidents in the past. Now, the biggest capital reallocation in our lifetime is going to be at a point where we say, what is the path to net zero? So let's be honest with each other. Overall, money goes where it's green. If you are able to show plans to be able to create a more greener environment in your transport section, you will be able to be funded as a whole. And therefore, you have to think differently. It is no more just about, it's no more a nice to have. It is something that we have to do with urgency. Now, this graph is important. If we are to achieve our goals of net zero by 2030 as we had intended to, this is what's going to happen. We have to exponentially scale our technology. From a wind power perspective, we need to go at 6 times where we're going right now. From a solar perspective, we have to go at 14 times. From a battery electric car series in itself, will go at 14 times. But if we have to move to hydrogen and creating new electrolyzing capacity, you need to then be exponentially be operating at 200 times of us scaling technology. And then carbon capture in itself and various storages that you need, you would actually need to be running at 100 times, which then means, do we reimagine net zero in 2030? Because in most cases, we will not be able to do what we need to do. The future is renewable. Going green is no more about just a nice to have. It's about saving. And at the same time, as you're going towards net zero, you're able to create efficiencies in your business. it is shown that on the one graph, it shows you how much the various sectors can save in that perspective. And then in the second graph, it shows you the amount that you actually can be saved by various areas. And you can see transport and logistics as a whole are the greatest components that will actually give us a quicker return on net zero as a whole. So therefore, it is imperative that transport in itself moves quite quickly. This is a graphic that I've used time and time and again that shows you that it is actually a mix rather than us being able to say, are we going to hydrogen first, or are we going through the battery electric? It is not one or the other. It is actually part of the entire continuum, and each one of them will be used to be able to enable what we need to do. As I move swiftly, I look at things like train technologies that could be used. Now, there are battery trains in today's terms. They entirely run without plugging onto the power grid themselves. They are recharged in the morning or overnight. Those trains themselves can actually be used to create what is now called hydrogen trains. The current hydrogen trains are actually battery trains with a constant state fuel cell. They're actually a battery train with its own power plant on board. But the change from a battery train to a hydrogen train is actually probably 100-fold, because the current trains on battery, you can only do 80 to 100-kilometer range. But the minute you put a constant state fuel cell on the train, what it allows you to then do, it allows you to go to 1,000 and even 1,200 kilometers in terms of range as a whole. And that is a big game changer. When you would have been charging the train every day, now you refuel it once a week. Ultimately, the train you're looking on is the one that is running at this point in time, what do they call it, in Germany, in Berlin. It is running in service, and I have been on that train. The big issue that we also have to rethink as we talk hydrogen is the refueling infrastructure. And in essence, we are moving at great speed to be able to look at feasibilities of where we're going to refuel the new trains that we'll probably be getting in the future. And similarly, we're also looking at hydrogen refueling in our stations themselves for the buses and the minibuses and the various vehicles that we have in the system. Our last mile services have not been left behind in itself. And in essence, the buses that you see, the gold ones that are running around in the system at this point in time, contain this technology on them where we can easily be able to go into the bus as is without changing anything except removing the current powertrain, the power pack and the drivetrain to change it to anything that we want. We can go straight to hydrogen. We can go past the various hybrid models. We can go to a full electric bus as a whole. We actually have an electric bus that is testing at the current moment in and around town. These are the various vehicles that are already adapted to be able to do what we need to do. All these vehicles, the new ones that you see all around, inclusive of the long buses, and we are now in the process of going into producing a small minibus, a 22-seater vehicle, a 7.5 meter vehicle that will allow us to be able to enter it into the smaller streets in and around the city. These are all the various vehicles that will allow us to then have a fully electrical system as a whole. We also have to think about our stations as we commercialize the stations themselves. Stationary fuel cells are the future. The idea of very noisy generators is actually out now. We have to think differently. And these are stackable and are easy to be able to add on as you continue to have more power challenges. They themselves allow you the ability to bring on clean energy, flexibility, reliability, and connectivity as a whole. And they are controlled remotely from your operating center. You also have to think about how you can actually produce your hydrogen on site. One of the things that we're blessed with, a lot of sun energy as a whole, and solar power can actually be able to be used to create your own hydrogen. in essence, as Gautrain, the one thing I'm blessed with is the fact that we have a lot of real estate. And these are some of the graphics that show you what we're going to be doing, replacing the current shade netting with a solar farm as a whole. In concluding, what are the insights from all of this? First and foremost, create for investment. Plan for long term, but invest today. Hydrogen is the future of mobility. There's nothing we can do. Whatever you plan, you have to think of it as being a state through which you will get to the hydrogen mobility state. Develop a holistic mobility plan. It's not parts of the system, but it's the whole system that has to be adapted. Adapt your technology for more applications. Think through your AI applications and how you will be able to use them to be able to do more rather than them being developed for a single vertical. Migrate your plan up the value chain as a whole. As you can see, we are thinking about producing our own hydrogen. Create a digital ecosystem and then embrace cloud computing and generative AI for resilience. With that, I thank you.
Ladies and gents, let's give Chepo a big hand. Chepo, thank you so much for this great presentation. Again, congratulations on your appointment, being the CEO of Gautrain. We see that you're embracing technology very well. You're standing up from COVID very well. And a lot of important decisions you guys are making, and you're leading the pack. Thank you so much. You'll be available for a panel discussion for us?
Yes, I'll be available.
Thank you very much, Chepo. Thanks. Ladies and gents, a hand to Mr. Chepo Tsokobe, and we will talk to him then a bit later on again. Thank you so much, Chepo. So, ladies and gents, we will be with you in a second. We're just going to set up the next presenter, and then I'll introduce him to you. Thank you very much. All right, ladies and gents, we are introducing you to Mr. Kagiso Gohale, and he's the General Manager, Sub-Saharan Africa for KUBA, and he's going to talk about the KUBA Transnet Horizons vision. Thank you very much, Kagiso.
Thank you for that introduction, and just good morning to everyone. I think this event is really exciting. I think one of the key goals for myself, and I think I talk for a lot of the other speakers as well, is to ensure that, we chart a picture and a vision of where we can go. And I think it's really important that we, pick up on both the challenges and I think some of the green shoots that have presented themselves. I myself, come from KUBA. I'm the general manager for Sub-Saharan Africa. This is looking at a business across West and East Africa and South Africa as well. And today we're just going to talk about our vision of what could be next. I do encourage you to go online, have a look at the white paper that we produced as well in terms of our broader global transit vision. But today it's really to look at what are some of the successes, what are the things that we can replicate, what are the things that we're busy with as a company, and really to invite everybody to see themselves in this vision and how do we partner together to move forward. So our mission is really simple as a business. We pride ourselves on a very simple mission, which is continually reimagining how people move in the world for the better. And this is about, helping people get anywhere and get anything. And this, next stage of our business, next stage of how we solve this problem of helping people from moving from point A to B is something that we, take a lot of pride in. We've invested a lot of money into, and we're also looking forward to making it a big reality as well within the continent and for the purposes of today, specifically in South Africa. So maybe just to set the scene, the current environment is that, a lot of the transportation space is just happening in a silo. You've got bus services that are doing their own thing and solving a specific need. You've got rail doing its own thing, trying to solve a specific need. And everybody's working in these silos. And it really creates this experience of, incompleted experience, confusion, lack of synergy. It makes it even tough for regulators, public agencies to even build out, integrated transport plans in the way that I believe that they envision. And when we look at, how things are moving, the mega trends within transportation, you do see how all these different modes are starting to converge. All these modes are being able to be looked at as mobility that can be brought forward to commuters as a service. And South Africa in itself needs this multimodal transport system. Obviously it's public transportation in concert with, categories like where we operate in ride hailing, e-hailing, new mobility formats. And we're looking at, micro transportation. There's really a case for really bringing the experience together and putting the commuter at the forefront and at the center of what we do. This has tremendous potential to compete more vigorously in the bigger vision, which is the real competition and why all of us are here. The real competition is against the car. And I believe that it's, not just public transportation alone, but other modes that can also assist in creating this vision of a single, highly integrated system with more nodes, which offers different cost factors, fixed and variable, able to take on, fixed route, dynamic routes, on-demand, planned trips. And this ecosystem does reside on a platform. So this concept of mobility as service will help tie all these modes together and make them a lot more attractive to riders. So we've had to evolve as a business as well. So we're currently active in around 70 countries, more than 10,000 cities, truly a global platform. And what we've been known for initially is been around UberX, these personal hire vehicles, sedans that are coming to pick you up. But our portfolio has had to expand as we create more access, as we create better experiences for riders. So we've got the ability to split fares. We are bringing, new modes of transportation, whether you're looking for a high-end experience, whether you're looking for a quick commute. We've been able to build on this platform and create experiences that actually allow for easier movement of people from A to B. But the next stage, and the stage that we're currently in, has been to start integrating other players into the Uber ecosystem. And now I'm going to sit and today and focus on three, which I believe are really important at this point in time. And that's traditional taxi. We'll talk a bit about high capacity vehicles like shuttles, as well as buses, planes, and trains. And maybe to kick it off, just a little video to show you what we've been up to.
Happened.
I think as the technical team sorts out the video, maybe just talk a little bit more about the platform. You know, we've enabled more than 20 unique types of services and use cases and accessibility solutions. And, you know, each of these, you know, complete that vision of a truly multimodal transportation platform. And we have needed to innovate in the sense because we've seen again some of the mega trends of people wanting to go from point A to point B and have their route planning sorted out for them within the app. And the next stage, as you know, as logically as it can be seen, was to move towards trains, planes, meter taxis, shuttles, and the like onto our platform. So that means we needed to build in some new use cases. So, for example, how do we handle fixed routes? How do we plan around fixed routes? How do you do network planning? All of these things have been looked for in the future of Uber. I think we'll go ahead in terms of the presentation here. No worries, no worries. I think technical team is still trying to sort that out, but I think we can move ahead on my side. So what's been happening across the UK, Ireland, Saudi Arabia? You know, we've built out partnerships with railway agencies to be able to build integrated solutions. So now in many countries, you're able to, you know, book your trip from one point to the other and be able to use different modes to get there. You know, one I'd like to highlight is, you know, Saudi Arabia, being able to travel via rail. You know, it's a very popular means of transportation. And now you're able to transact and do all your ticketing within the Uber app. In the UK, actually, one of my colleagues that side is actually, you know, was really excited about being able to move from the London office to Geneva in Switzerland, all on the Uber app. So that means that's planes, that's you know, the trains to get there, and even the last mile trips on Uber to be able to get to the last site, the last mile of their trip. And that's been something that's been really, I think, phenomenal. And I believe that, you know, transport authorities, you know, agencies and the like should be looking at this opportunity to be able to make things simple and to be able to leverage the platform that's been built on Uber. So that means that immediately these agencies are able to have access to the marketplace, access to the customer base that utilizes our services in these countries. So what does that commuter journey planning looks like? So now in these countries, you have options now amongst the ones that you're used to of having transit. And there you're able to see the different stops, the different routes that you can take. And once you add that, once you select your option that you'd like to take forward, you're presented with a much more advanced route planning guidance. So you're actually even guided on the walking directions, how to go and connect to multiple connections, etc. And all this is done in a very familiar UX and a very familiar way, which riders across the world have become accustomed to on Uber. One of the other pieces is also ticketing, right? It can't be normal that you arrive in a place and you don't know actually, if I want to take this bus, what do I need to do? Do I need to go to find some sort of ticketing office? Am I able to pay cash? Am I able to pay with my card? And now by bringing this experience onto a platform, this actually allows all modes of transportation to be catered for. So we've had to also build the ability to be able to integrate different ticketing platforms where they use QR, barcodes, etc., put them into the app. And this allows us to be able to close the gaps within things like travel time. You no longer have to stop and try to figure out the next step, especially when you're switching modes of transportation. So one of the great things and the pieces that I love is that it gives you also now the ability to actually reserve your seat on high capacity vehicles. So you can reserve in advance, the services you want. In case, you're moving from a meeting to another meeting, you will now be able to book your place onto that vehicle. And from the transport provider's perspective, they're a lot more certain about the demand that's going to be coming into their channel of transportation there. Another change that seemed to be, impossible, but now made possible, is that we've seen taxis now getting onto the platform. Again, with the introduction of Uber as a service, it was seen as something that is in conflict with the traditional, meter taxis that are operating in many of the cities where we currently have the app available. But now we've seen traditional players like New York's yellow cabs, the black cabs in London, all across the world. We're seeing traditional players looking at the platform and saying, how do we go and improve supply efficiency? How do we improve demand? How do we improve reliability? How do we get access to these extra earnings? And we've been able to partner with some of the biggest taxi groups across the world and bring them onto the platform. And it's not just about actually just creating a category for them, but we've been able to also coalesce and bring them into traditional rides. So in some of these cities, if you book an Uber X, you're also now able to get that trip fulfilled by the meter taxis as well. So this is something that has been really a game changer, and I think it shows what partnership can do in terms of creating this multimodal future. And that is something that we can definitely do in this country and all across the continent. Secondly, we've also been testing out our technology to be able to work with fixed routes and high capacity vehicles. So we have Uber Shuttle in several countries. I think my most recent experience of this was in Cairo. And again, it made me think, why do we believe that minibuses and taxis should only be for a certain segment of the population? I was able to go from one meeting in the office to another meeting on a 16-seater taxi by being able to book in advance on the Uber app. So payment is sorted. There's no exchange of money with the driver. What happened is that I booked for a certain time. A few minutes before that, the app reminded me that I needed to, go out to the curb. Went to the curb, looked out for the minibus taxi. It stopped. I gave them my code. I sat down and I went to my destination. Everything sorted out. And again, I think some of the innovations that we're seeing, I think from our counterparts in the taxi industry, players around that, are leading in this direction. But the beauty of what Shuttle also helps with is that in times where demand might be low, you now have the ability to be able to fulfill that using different modes. And then secondly, also, instead of, I think a lot of us have also had this experience, sometimes waiting for a taxi and during the day where it's a lot more quieter. And there's that uncertainty about, is it coming? When is it coming? And even for the drivers on their side, they need to drive and look around and hope that somebody comes in. But now we have that technology that allows you to be able to have a lot more certainty in terms of routes, to be able to optimize when taxis come out. And in the future, you can already think about how we can deviate from fixed routes to be able to go and pick you up just off the main road, just off the sidewalk. So that's something that, again, is really interesting and has been such a great development on the business, and something that could be I think a game changer in terms of integrating the various transportation options that we have in South Africa. So looking at where this all fits in, I think high capacity vehicles, without a shadow of a doubt, they're the ones that are moving this country. I think a lot of people rely on this. Traditional fixed route mass transit is, subsidized, fairly informal, no guaranteed seating, fixed schedules, or if it's not fixed schedules, it's also, there's that uncertainty. On the far side is, the route that we traditionally known for, which is ride sharing. So that's a higher cost. These are private vehicles that are brought on, and it's really taking you from door to door. You've got live tracking, you've got that whole tech stack. And we're saying, is there a world, where we partner and we bring those two worlds together, where we've got something that is at a, might not be at necessarily at the low cost that's currently operating, that some of these fixed route mass transits are operating at, but somewhere in the middle where, there may be some queues, but for a large part, we can guarantee sitting. We can leverage the network of transportation to be able to create, dynamic fixed routes, dynamic schedules, and give riders the sense, the commuters, the certainty that they'll be able to move using these services, even when they need to get around at a tighter schedule. So that is something, that's a development that is still expanding. We currently have shuttle in around 6 countries, but the technology there is there, the tech stack is built there. Then lastly is just around the public agencies. Again, to be able to achieve some of these bigger goals, I repeat, it's about partnership. It's about working together to co-build. There's no need to go and rebuild things that already exist. I think, as a business, we've invested billions into, technology around pricing, around mapping, around demand planning, ensuring supply is there at the right times. And these are things that can actually bring great benefit to communities around South Africa. So the first bit is just around, we spoke about first and last mile. How do we create feeder transportation options that, can take you from your door to the taxi rank. And then once you get off on the other side from the taxi rank to the office, how do you complement paratransit and high capacity services? Interesting one is also around micro mobility, being able to, we've seen the proliferation of, bicycle lanes in many of our cities. There's a big drive to get people, out of cars again and cycling, etc. And, you might not be able to cycle the full route, but you can do part of that route. How do we integrate those different modes of transportation in there? How do you replace inefficient fixed routes as well? We've seen sometimes with buses and the like, how do we actually keep the service available, but in a way that actually makes financial sense as well? So that is something that we can do, replace some of the, bigger buses, with more nimble, dynamic routed vehicles. And again, that can be done on this platform. I think another big one, which has been, tremendous, obviously, for our business, is also late night rides. Public transport services do end at a certain time, and that does have an impact on the economy, even commuting of like staff, etc. So this is something that is really important, and because of the ability to be able to have dynamic dynamic routes, dynamic network planning, we can enable, transportation that continues, throughout the night as well. So all in all, I mean, we have over 70 agencies globally, public agencies that are achieving their broader transit goals with us at KUBA. Now, just in closing, I think we need to realize that the barriers that we see within our transportation, the silos that we currently operate in, those are things that are artificial. I don't think those are real barriers that we should continue to, even entertain. I think I do see a world where, multiple modes of transport can sit on apps. I think there's lots of players, including ourselves, that are trying to bring this mobility as a service and make it a reality, for everyone in this space. And, we do invite both the public sector as well as private individuals, players within this space, to continue to, connect with us, to work with us in terms of making this vision around having a multimodal future a reality. Thank you for your time today.
Kagiso, thank you so much for this great presentation. And it's great seeing the level you guys are actually killing the silos we're working in. And we really appreciate seeing that you're even creating a platform for generating revenue for people out there and helping, our country's economy growing. I think we can also say that you guys are not doing integration, you're behind integration, it's collaboration, it's everything. So thank you very much for this great presentation. We're all giving you a big hand for this, and we're looking forward to engaging with in the panel discussion. So thank you very much. We really appreciate your effort and being with us today. Thank you so much. Right, ladies and gents, just bear with us. We're just bringing up the next presenter to you, and we will see you just now. Thank you very much. Right, ladies and gents, some exciting news here. We've got actually a lady on our panel today. It was not great having just gentlemen. Be great having actually Rebecca Fala. She is the Santaco national spokesperson, and she's going to do the presentation on behalf of Santaco. So Rebecca, thank you very much for spending some time with us today. And she's going to talk about innovation in the taxi industry. Thank you, Rebecca. Over to you.
Thank you very much. Good morning to everyone that's watching. Thank you for the invitation. Santaco is very appreciative of being invited to partake. I'll be making a presentation on behalf of the president, whom, as you've already explained, had to go to other pressing commitments. But then again, it's a blessing in disguise, because at least now we've got a diffusion of having a female as well, just to balance the equation to a certain extent. The taxi industry is one of the oldest modes of transport in South Africa. We remain to be the foremost transporter of many South Africans, and innovation for us means a lot of things. But perhaps to sort of introduce everyone to who Santaco is. Santaco is a democratically formed organization which is recognized by the government of South Africa. It was in 2001 that we met in Durban at the time, and the very first democratically elected collective of leaders was then introduced to represent the interests of many media as well as meter taxis within South Africa, also as guided by the National Land Transport Act of South Africa, which still makes those particular provisions. Now, the formation of Santaco started off with what we at the time were called Protacos, and those were just provincial taxi councils. And so we then formed into one. We're comprised of representation that spans through all the 9 provinces of South Africa, and we also have representation in the SADC region with cross-border operations. The organization, as already having been mentioned, is led by a collective of people who are democratically elected, and they serve for a period of 4 years. And we currently employ just over 300,000 South Africans who work as drivers, as marshals, as well as rank managers. But a lot of people would know that the ecosystem of the taxi industry is a lot bigger than that. We also have a lot of opportunities that come just as a result of the work that we do in our taxi ranks, with a lot of it having to do with trading. We ferry just over 16 million South Africans to various destinations on a daily, and this cuts across all of the provinces. And now when you look at the slide that we have there, we're just showing you that we have evolved in terms of the kinds of modes of vehicles that we use. When we started, we were using smaller vehicles, and there's been a transition over the years to where we are now, where we're using, the 16 seaters all the way to the minibuses of 22 seaters. And we're growing quite greatly. We also have meter taxis, which are still part of us. In fact, we've got what we call Santaco Meter Taxi. And as we proceed forth, we'll also talk about the ways in which we're also embracing modern technology as we innovate the taxi industry, which goes to show that when we started, the greater focus was largely on just ensuring that the vehicles that we're using are durable. But you can see now we're starting to embrace modern day technology and how it can also be fused into the work that we're doing. The taxi industry is obviously innovating, as is every other mode of transport, and it remains one of the most interesting modes of transport for a lot of people. One of the ways in which we're doing that, most people have always said to us, the biggest headache that comes with using a taxi is the mode of payment. In the morning, when a person comes into a taxi and they've got a higher amount of money, you find that there's a problem with change. One of the biggest innovations that we're introducing is in the form of fare collections, automated fare collections. So far to date, we've been trialing an automated fare payment system in the provinces of Gauteng, Western Cape, and the Eastern Cape. And I'm quite certain that when we get into the panel discussions, I'm sure some of the questions will come in relation to that, to say what are some of the solutions that we have identified and some of the other lessons that are being drawn. We are also really embracing innovation in the form of the way in which we recruit our employees, starting from drivers all the way to everybody else. And you'll see when I start talking about some of the partnerships that we're having, how we are doing exactly this. So we've got quite a number of partners. And one of the first partners that we have as the industry is Smart Vein. And that's a Black woman-owned company that's working with the taxi industry. And the project that we're doing with Smart Vein, it's called Street Governor. And what we're doing there is we're using biometrics. We're fusing that system into the manner in which we're employing starting from drivers, ranked managers, and everyone. So when one gets to work in the industry, they get vetted using biometric technology to establish things like whether they are labor compliant, if they've got UIF registrations, if they've got tax registrations, but also whether a person has got a criminal record. So that's one of the systems that our taxi associations are currently using to just try and ensure that we're using modern day technology to not ever employ people in contradiction with the country's labor legislation. One of the other partners that we have is called Shared Mobility Africa. They do a lot of more work with us in terms of particularly starting at the associations. One of the things that we're doing with them is we're calling it the taxi rank management systems. What they do is they introduce a technology that helps the administrative staff of a taxi association to be able to keep track of where vehicles are moving at a particular day, the speed that's being utilized by drivers and things of that sort. And what we've found so far is a lot of people would know a lot of concerns have been raised about the manner in which some of our drivers drive. So we're recording a sort of reasonable progress in that particular regard. And the project is largely still active in the Gauteng province, but the intention is to roll it out to the rest of the country. And some of the initiatives that we'll be bringing there is also book a seat, similar to what you would have with the airplanes. We want for people to be able to book a seat before they come to a taxi rank to avoid people always queuing, especially when they are quite in a rush. And those are some of the initiatives with Shared Mobility Africa. There's also Mobify Tracker, which will soon be called Santaco Tracker, which essentially feeds into that taxi association management system I spoke about earlier. And one of the other partners that we have is it's a partnership that we have with an organization called Bonontle. And what we do there, we've established in an app, it's called Taxi Posse, and we're ensuring that the work we do in terms of having a compliance with legislation is done with an automated system. So with Taxi Posse, our taxi drivers, our taxi owners will then start being employees of a cooperative, which is in the form of a taxi association. We have just recently started engaging the Department of Employment and Labor, but also through the JTTT working group that we have with the Department of Transport. We're working towards having all the taxi associations become corporates. So the drivers and the owners will then become the founding members of a corporate, and then the drivers will become the employees. And that way you will then have labor compliance. You have them making sure that there are monthly contributions to things inclusive of your UIF contributions and many other legislation required particular avenues. And those are some of the initiatives that we're doing. In fact, just later in February, we'll be formally introducing it, the taxi formalization project, which, by the way, is as a result of and in keeping with the resolutions of the 2020 National Taxi Lekgotla, which the industry engaged on with the National Department of Transport to try and corporatize the taxi industry, formalize it, ensure that it has a diversification of the value chain, but also to see to it that the industry is able to embrace modern day technology to ensure its sustainability within the greater public transport network within South Africa, and of course, crossing over to the SADC region. And one of the projects I spoke of earlier on is that one about payment solutions, to say a lot of our commuters have really been complaining to say taxi mats is a problem in the morning, but also some of them really are trying to embrace the reality of moving into a cashlessness. And so that's what Santaco is doing. We have partnered there with IMS, and that particular endeavor is called Fair Pay. It will also be launched quite early on in the next month of March. And I've already mentioned that we've trialed with these payment solutions in Gauteng, in the Western Cape, as well as in the Eastern Cape. And some of the insights that we're finding there are quite interesting. Principle to which is that South Africans are a very dynamic grouping. When you go to some of the provinces that are traditionally rural, like your Eastern Cape, your Limpopo, you find that people there are not very opposed to the idea of paying with cash, but you find that when you go to provinces like the Western Cape and Gauteng, the greater scheme of people who use our services, they are quite appreciative of those endeavors. And so just one other thing that we do is we appreciate that the over 16 million South Africans who use taxis on a daily basis, it means that they also get an opportunity to be exposed to a dissemination of information, but also to understand what the business world is doing in a particular space of time. And so that's where we also have this endeavor of in-transit advertising, where we also disseminate information. A lot of people will know in a taxi system when there are going to be fare increases, the notification is done in a taxi. as you can see with that picture, for example, you'll find that there's a notice there which essentially alerts the commuters of intended changes within a particular service. And so that's what we've now gone on to digitize with these in-transit advertising. It's a big business avenue. If we're speaking about having over 16 million people using this mode of transport on a daily, it means that that's another way for business to access an opportunity to advertise and reach out to their potential customers just by really collaborating with the taxi industry with that particular guarantee that you've got so many people using our services on a daily basis. And just to close really in terms of what is it that we're doing overall in terms of innovation in the taxi industry, we're talking about in-transit Wi-Fi, we're talking about cash payment systems, cashless payment systems to quite be correct there, in-transit advertising and information dissemination, value chain opportunities, diversification thereof, biometric assisted recruitment processes, automating taxi rank management, the fusing of technology into our labor compliance efforts, digitizing of our ranking facilities, improving driver training and customer service. And perhaps just on that particular point, we've got a flagship program. It's called Mela. With that particular program, we are helping law enforcement to ensure that all of our operators, especially our drivers, are driving vehicles that are roadworthy, they do not contradict the rules of the road, and also that at all times they do not overload our vehicles. And one of the other things that we're also doing is that we're improving our commuting by ensuring that there are tracking mechanisms for vehicles and things of that sort. And I think more than anything, the list is quite non-conclusive, but the biggest sentiment that we want for everyone to understand at the end of this presentation is that the taxi industry is very keen on embracing modern technology. The taxi industry is very keen on appreciating the reality that the integrated transport network is a lot bigger, and there has to be a collaboration, even with some of the colleagues from other modes who spoke before us. And we're very appreciative of that. But more than anything, Santaco is open for business, and we hope that people will reach out to us so that we can find ways to really improve the service offering that we're giving. Thank you very much.
Right.
Thank you so much, Rebecca. What a great presentation. Ladies and gents, there you can see also, let's make it a little bit bigger. You can see there the contact details of Santaco. And they're coming out there talking to us, and we really appreciate that. And it's so impressive to see, you know, the technology embracing and partnerships you're going into, and that you're growing the economy, that you know, advertising and all that type of stuff that's available on the vehicles. It's really great commerce happening here, and taxi cooperatives coming in. That's really great. Rebecca, thank you so much. Really appreciate what you've told us today. It was great, and we're looking forward to talking to you in the panel discussion.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Ladies and gents, yes, this was now great. According to the program, we're running a little bit early, but that's great. We're going to take a short comfort break. So can we see you back again at 11 o'clock? Let's take a break. We'll see you back again at 11 o'clock. Thank you very much for your time. Michael, can we just check your video feed, please? You're welcome to talk to me. Michael Hart, if you can come in, we just need to talk check the video feed. Thank you very much. For those joining the session now, we just want to say we're taking a break and we will be live again at 11 o'clock. Thank you very much. Michael, you've perhaps joined us in the meantime. Michael Hart, we just need to check your video feed. Thank you.
Comfort break. Hello.
Hi, Michael. Yeah, thanks for joining. You just need to check your video feed there. It seems to me the call there is stopped. Michael, can you hear me?
I can, yeah.
Yes, great. Shall I give you a new oh, there you are. There you are. Okay, great. I was just
Sorry,
concerned you
I was
left.
taking a comfort break and making a coffee.
No, great. You there. So everything is working fine. Thanks, Michael. We'll see you at 11 o'clock then. Thanks a lot.
Okay. Thanks. Bye. Uh,
Right, ladies and gents, we will start in 2 minutes' time. You can start taking up your seats. Ladies and gents, let's continue with the session. Still the 8th of February 2024, and we're talking innovation in public transport, proudly being hosted by KUBA. They say simplifying payments, transforming mobility. Thank you very much, KUBA, for hosting us today. It's a great time we're spending here at the offices in Johannesburg, and all the panelists are here, and great networking as well taking place here. So ladies and gents, we look at the program there. We've done our comfort break. We're great. We're running a little bit ahead of time, but that's great. So our next presenter then today is our host, Mr. Michael Hart, and he is the Chief Revenue Officer for KUBA. He's going to talk about how can payments innovation support safe, seamless travel in South Africa. Thank you very much, Michael. We really appreciate your time. And over to you. Thank you, Michael.
Harry, thank you very much. I hope that everyone enjoyed our hospitality during the comfort break. The title that I was given for this presentation was probably more of a short story than a succinct title. So if you'll forgive me and indulge me, I've adjusted it to transforming mobility. Before I dive in, I'd like you to indulge me into a little retrospective. Harry, you can move on from that slide, thank you. And probably skip that one too. So it's the last time I spoke to this forum was in December 2020. And there's quite a lot has changed for us since then. Harry, move on. We founded the business in September 2019. Just two of us with a vision of doing things differently and doing things better. Probably not the best time to found a business just before COVID hit. But we've survived, and more than that, I think we've flourished. This focus on doing things differently and better has enabled us to grow quite significantly. Today, we're more than 300 strong. We have a turnover in excess of $35 million, and we've been growing by 30% year on year since we founded. And how we've achieved that is by sticking true to that core vision of simplifying payments and helping to transform mobility, removing barriers to sustainable transport, and helping operators and governments transform mobility. Popper, if you can move on, Harry. Thank you. I talk about this vision, and something that underpins everything that we do is doing the right thing always. It's led to some quite difficult decisions as we've grown over the last 4 years, particularly in an industry that is so very, very political, and the influence of self-interested parties is quite great. Always we've sought to take the right path, the most appropriate, simple and secure path. And we also pay back. And we're proud that as part of the ICM Foundation, we've contributed more than $15 million to communities and NGOs that empower positive social change. Harry, move on. So this core vision, we believe that access to affordable and efficient public transport is a basic, fundamental human right. We need to help provide access from where people live to healthcare, education, employment opportunities and services, and ensuring that mobility is sustainable and connected and there are no barriers is key to delivering that sustainable, positive change. So a question to everybody on this forum: why do we make it so difficult to plan, pay for a ride or journey? Harry, pop over. Thank you. And again. So in December 2020, I talked about how traditional payment methods create friction, how complicated ticketing solutions that exist today are incredibly hard to get your access token ticket. You find that it only works for part of your journey. You need another means of payment for the first or last mile, and still cash is absolutely prevalent in the vast majority of transit solutions in South Africa. And for those of you that know me well, I hate paying cash for anything. But it's important for us to acknowledge COVID has accelerated the way in which people buy, the way in which they buy goods and consume services. And it's never going to go back. We all have new expectations, and those expectations are now fully ingrained in what we do every day. So if we look at what we've done over the last 4 years, particularly last year, we onboarded a new city or region every week last year. More than 52 cities or regions brought onto our platform. We saw an 80% growth in revenue processed by our platforms. We rolled out 2 AFC cashless payment trials for taxis in South Africa, and it was a year of incredible growth for us. But progress in South Africa, I think, has still been glacially slow over the last 4 years. It's beginning to accelerate. But what I'd like to be able to do as we go through the remainder of this presentation is highlight a couple of examples where stuff that's been introduced in other parts of the world could deliver significant benefit quickly in South Africa, and then consider what some of the barriers to change might be and how we overcome them. Harry, you can move on. So let's have a look at some of the challenges for mobility, particularly in South Africa. The dominance of cash payments continues. So little has changed over the last 3 years, particularly in taxi, where the majority of people use that for travel to and from work. That predominance of cash, if you go back, please, Harry, creates friction. It means that people are queuing to withdraw cash on payday to pay for their taxi home. Absolutely bonkers. The security risk for passengers, drivers, taxi owners, and of course, cash is expensive to handle and secure. Most importantly, it doesn't give us traceable data on which to review and plan. And bottom line is fare models are inflexible. With no data, how do you cap fares, offer returns or period passes to those people using your services? Move on. But there are also one of the challenges that we face is within the country, there are fragmented and disparate fare systems. Those fragmented and disparate systems have no connectivity. They could provide the glue that unifies separate transport networks, but actually today they act as barriers to use. Without integration, it's almost impossible to enable complete seamless journeys. And currently, whilst the most popular mode of transport is slowly adapting to that vision for a seamless mobility within their ecosystem, we know that the others, Prasa, are struggling. So I guess there's from me to everyone on this forum is a plea. South Africa was at the forefront of the development of N.EMV. You've got Sanral, you've got MyFare, and all of these things are complicated to get hold of, complicated to reload and use. So my plea is stop creating expensive and complex regional systems and look to simplify and reuse open standards that exist globally. Chapeau earlier on talked about this ability of open APIs and data, and KUBA referenced it in their presentation too. If we open and if we seek to collaborate, we remove barriers to use and we begin to enable a more integrated and seamless mobility network. Harry, pop on. So I'm going to share with you two case studies. They're both American, but the first is California. Now, surprisingly, there are an awful lot of synergies between California and South Africa. In point of fact, California's got a higher proportion of their population that are unbanked than the country of South Africa does. The similarities are that there are huge differences in the socio-economic groups that live within the state. There is a very large and mobile workforce at the lower end of those socio-economic groups that don't work where they live and are massively dependent upon mass transit to access employment, education, and services. So in California, we've worked very closely with the state of California and with something called CAL-ITP, the Californian Integrated Travel Program. And we've been together, we've created something called the Mobility Marketplace. And Harry, if you remind me afterwards, I'll provide you with a link to that you can share. Now, what the Mobility Marketplace is it's an initiative to make it easy for agencies and transport operators to buy the components needed for a standard off-the-shelf payment system with standard contracts and pre-negotiated pricing. The idea is to simplify procurement, acknowledging that transport operators don't have the in-house technological expertise or program management capability to deliver it. And this is designed to make it a hassle-free, straightforward route to deliver systems that enable the transformation of mobility very quickly and simply. And it's proving to be incredibly popular as we move forward. So the next slide talks about the benefits that we've been able to deliver. And the benefits are that we have been able to lower the overheads for transport operators. We've cut the costs of staffing ticket desks and handling cash. We've accelerated boarding times. So the data-driven studies have shown that we've reduced dwell time at stop by more than 50%. Now, that not only ensures that services run on time, it reduces their fuel burn and their CO2 emissions. Because the services are cleaner and running better to schedule, we've managed to help increase ridership. We've seen significant increases to returning to pre-COVID levels across the networks, with increased passenger satisfaction and patronage. A lot of the applications that we offer have helped to improve safety. There are in-journey alert capabilities, security capabilities, and of course, removing cash from buses is helping improve safety of drivers and passengers alike. But park that for a minute. There are some much broader societal benefits that have been delivered through this program as well. The state have been at the forefront of persuading financial institutions to introduce basic bank accounts that are available to the population without credit checks, which means that anybody, regardless of where they live, what they earn, or their credit history, can have access to the digital economy. And they're starting to pay state benefits digitally too. So not only are we helping to improve transit, we're helping to improve the lives of those people that have previously been excluded from the digital economy. So that's California. And we're very proud of it. And Harry, Catherine, and I will share the link for you so that others can dive in and have a look at that. If you move on to the next slide, I'd like to talk to you about Dallas in Texas. There are huge synergies between our previous presenters and some of the points that they pulled out. KUBA provides a mobility as a service platform in Dallas. It's a single overlaying application that serves the entire region. So it's branded as GoPass, and it's operated by the Dallas Area Rapid Transit Authority. Now, that solution incorporates 5 other transit agencies with overlapping geographical areas. So it covers a huge proportion of the state of Texas. The platform is integrated using a suite of open APIs, and it's integrated with third parties such as Uber, Spare, Bird, Via, Lyft, and Rideco. You have for the ride sharing and on demand. It's integrated with paratransit, with demand responsive transit, and we use Route Match to help us deliver a cohesive door-to-door experience for passengers. Again, I can share some links to that application, but it's an awesome piece of mobility transformation. And the passengers that use it, those people that have downloaded it, we have average ratings of 4.9 out of 5 in both the App Store and Google Play stores. That platform integrates separate automatic fare collection systems delivered from different third parties, so VIX Technology, GenFare, and others, and is a great example of our open approach and proven capability to integrate in depth using open APIs with multiple partners. So, Harry, pop over. The benefits delivered to the people of Dallas and to the Dallas agency is quite simple. It's a single door-to-door journey, unifying both public and private mobility service providers. So this fulfills the vision that a lot of the presenters that have preceded me today have set out. And we'd love to be able to talk to you in a little bit more detail post this event in terms of how we can actually use our learnings and what we've done in other parts of the world to deliver transformational mobility in South Africa. Harry, pop over. And again, the future vision, interoperable transport, right? So we've learned the lessons and delivered tangible results in other parts of the world. Let's transform your existing fare systems from a barrier into the glue that links the separate and disparate transit networks together. Let's use those fare systems to provide the integration that enables complete journeys. Let's remove the barriers to use. Pop over. But how can we make that progress? You know, it's all very well to come in with grand ideas and examples of where we've done it previously. How do we actually make that progress happen? I've got some ideas. Harry, can you pop over again? Oh, sorry, apologies, go back. How do we make that progress? What do we need to accelerate change? Well, the first thing I think is regulatory support. We want innovation to be fostered and encouraged by national and regional governmental bodies. We don't want that dictated to our sector by a small number of consultants. We want an environment to be created where innovation can actually be encouraged and driven through. We need to support change management. We need to educate and support operators in this process. I know that a lot of bus operators have been running on month-to-month contracts. How on earth can we expect them to make fundamental change if they have no certainty of ongoing revenue? And we need to encourage collaboration. Public and private partnerships work, particularly when working under that regulatory support. And acknowledge technological expertise. Let us help take care of the how. You tell us what you want delivered, but let us harness the power of innovation and experience to deliver the how we deliver it, how we help you enable it. And then finally, test and iterate. A willingness to start this cycle of continuous demand-led innovation and an open mind to say, look, how can we do this better and how can we do it right? Harry? Ultimately, paying for your ride should be as easy as buying a coffee. This industry overcomplicates things, creates barriers, and our mission is to help remove those barriers and simplify things for the benefit of this communities, towns, cities, and society that we serve. Thank you.
Thank you, Sir Michael. This is a great presentation. We really appreciate you presenting with us and hosting us and telling us how you guys certainly will be able to do this, know the know-how. You embrace technology very well. We can see this here at offices as well in Johannesburg. Thank you for encouraging collaboration. I think that's extremely important in South Africa context as well. And yeah, so enablement for innovation to be carried through. I see this happening here with KUBA. And we're looking forward, Michael, also to the panel discussion where people can engage with you. So thank you very much, Michael. Ladies and gents, let's give him a big hand. Michael Hart, thank you so much. Right, ladies and gents, we're going to set up our next presenter and we will be with you in a few seconds' time. Thank you very much. Right, ladies and gents, our next, the last presenter, but definitely not the least, is Mr. Lawrence Swanepoel. He's the Divisional Head Transportation Planning at the City of Tshwane. And Lawrence is going to talk about the future look on public transport. Lawrence, thank you very much. We've been looking forward to this presentation. So it's over to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Harry. I think when Harry asked me to talk on today's topic on innovation, my first reaction was, we're not doing much wow things and innovative things in the city of Tshwane. But thinking about it, we are definitely doing a number of things different. And as we do things different, some new innovative type of ways come out to actually take us forward, or hopefully to take us forward. Just in terms of the contents, I just want to talk a little bit about the status of public transport in the city of Tshwane, the latest happenings on public transport specifically, and then what do we see the future will hold for the city of Tshwane. We started off with our comprehensive integrated transport plan, and some of the new comprehensive integrated transport plan, as I mentioned. Part of that is obviously the public transport plan and the integrated public transport network. Also part of that is then the public transport demand modeling. In this demand modeling, we are looking at a number of scenarios. And we've got certain horizons, and from that, we want to, we populated the model with the latest surveys and input data. And from this now, we're starting to develop our strategy for the way forward. In short, the scenarios entail the reduction of private car mode over time, the increase of Metro Rail, PRASA modal share, and specifically after COVID, things are not the same anymore, but we'd like to get it back. And we see rail to be playing that major role as it was pre-COVID. The increase of our own BRT Arayeng modal split, then reduce the minibus taxi modal share. I'll come to that just now if I say reduce. The idea is that the Arayeng services be integrated with our current Tshwane bus services. We are currently running parallel services, and it's unnecessarily expensive. So we want to incorporate the newly formed companies, and specifically bringing in the minibus taxi industry to form these or take up the slack as what we've reduced on the taxi industry, but then increasing it on the public transport, quality public transport system. So what is this quality public transport services that we're talking about? We want to use articulated and standard buses. We want to use the mini buses, the mid-D buses, and bring them into the mainstream of the public transport system. First of all, we want to have a faster service. We want to have a more frequent service, but still using the existing public transport buses varying from 22 to 150 seater capacity, as well as the taxis from anything from a 10 to a 16 seater capacity. Also running over our corridors. I'll show the specific corridors in the city of Tshwane now. And we want to make use of dedicated bus lanes, and not only for the BRT, but for all public transport. We want to make use of mixed flow and queue jumping at busy intersections, contraflow, high occupancy vehicle lanes. These things are working everywhere else in the world. We can definitely employ them in our area. And then very importantly, to integrate non-motorized transport and walking and cycling as part of the first and last mile. We all want to do or aiming for integration. There's quite a lot of situations where we still currently all the different modes are operating in silos. We want to bring them into the same system and integrate them in such a way that they are then operating as a single system in the city. Here we've got the 17 corridors as per our integrated public transport network. Some of the biggest corridors are the 17 in total of the biggest corridors is the Mabopane to the CBD, the Mamelodi to CBD, Atteridgeville to CBD, Garankuwa to CBD, and obviously the Moloti corridor. So those are the biggest ones that bring in our passengers on a daily basis to the CBD. Here's our modal split, and I was talking about the modeling. Our base year for the current model is 2022. Then we've got a 5-year 2027 model and a scenario, then a 10-year 2032, and then a 20-year 2042. So there on the screen, one can see how we see the modal split actually changing over time, but keeping in mind that our main aim is to promote this quality public transport system. Just a slide on that specific figures on the modal split, showing there in yellow the increase in the quality public transport system. Then just some ticket sale issues of PRASA, for instance. We would like to see ticket sales going back to where it was pre-COVID. This is quite low at the moment, and it can easily. This is about a quarter to a third of what it can actually be. Then in terms of Arayeng, the problem with the municipal services is that you would see there in August, September, and even to an extent October, due to strikes and interruptions and so on in our public transport system in the city, our Tshwane bus service as well as our Arayeng services did not operate at all, and in some instances just very limited scale, and that's definitely a problem. With our Arayeng, we've got this horizon, and we initially, if we look at it 20 years ago or so, we had this ambition of rolling out the Arayeng services all over the city, and I think in terms of today, we should have rolled out everything in line with the original planning. At this stage, we've just rolled out line 1, part of line 1 and line 2, and the intention is now also to, in the middle of this year, go to line 2C as well, taking it further to Mamelodi. The point is that just the rollout is much slower as originally planned, but there are some good highlights. Here on the slide, there's the Wonderboom interchange. This is a state-of-the-art system at the moment. There's even, showing on the next slide, there's even a proper interaction and integration between the PRASA and the BRT terminus here. There's, for instance, lifts for passengers. They don't have to walk and crossing the street, for instance. This already looks like a airport. It's very, very nice and very high tech. Then we're doing the same to be rolled out in Deneboom, that's Mamelodi area, just to the east. And this is the type of quality that we'd like to provide for public transport in the area. Then obviously we're very grateful for Gautrain coming to the party with their extensions. That will not more than double the stations in Tshwane. Also the Moloti corridor, a lot of accidents have taken place on the Moloti corridor. So the Moloti corridor from Sanral side is a priority, and we as a city welcome the further upgrades to that specific corridor. Then in terms of the status and the challenges, there's always the easy part and the difficult part. The infrastructure, although it is expensive and so on, is the part that can easily be rolled out. We've at this stage already done for our line 1 and 2. We've already done 16 kilometers of bus lanes. The Arayeng stations have been rolled out, 12 stations. Wonderboom intermodal facility, as I mentioned, have been done. The transfer facility at Menlyn and Deneboom in Mamelodi is in process, all together with the rollout of the bus lanes, and so 67 kilometers of non-motorized transport at the Universal Access Design Standards are also being rolled out. Belaombre's CNG depot is also being built. It's also, again, a state of the art. One can't even compare it with bus depots in general. And then feeder poles and that type of thing. So the infrastructure is actually the easy part that's done. In terms of operations, this is where the big challenges are. The city has got some oversupply, quite a lot of oversupply in our capacity, public transport capacity. There's limited service coverage of bus and rail, ineffective operational planning. Our demands and supplies don't always add up, and there's the issue of feasibility. Very little public transport integration that we can actually show in the city to date. Granted, there is quite a lot of physical integration. The modes physically get together at one place. There's also fair integration between our different services offered by the city, the Arayeng and the Tshwane bus service, for instance. There's automated fare collection. But where we are generally lacking, and it's maybe not only the city, but in quite a lot of places in the country, is the issue of network integration, service integration, the schedules that are not integrated. And that's the big challenge. Hopefully this quality public transport system of ours will be able to address that in much more detail. The biggest problem that we've got in the city is this issue of the single directional demand. You've got this typical township part on the one side of a trip, long distance to the work opportunities on the other side. Taxis and buses cannot necessarily, within the critical peak period, go back for a second trip because the distances are too long and so on. Again, our journey times, the long trips, specifically if one looks at the distances from Bopani to the CBD and from Mamelodi to the CBD, let alone even the Moloti corridor, those distances are so long that people sit on the public transport for many hours. And there's also the system as it is, where it's not integrated, forces a lot of passenger transfers, and that is something we need to work on. So what is the future look? I think that's where we need to say, where is our plans going, and what difference can we actually make? First of all, we believe in a basket of solutions with respect to the different modes. These modes need to work together, be in harmony, and each must play their healthy role in the process of a public transport system for the city. We obviously, our system encourages healthy competition. Competition for a route, and definitely not on a route. We don't want buses and taxis competing for the same passenger. That's not on, and it's not healthy, and it's going to create. Okay, then one of the very important aspects that we're currently working on is the decongestion of our CBD. There's a huge background noise here. Let me try again. In terms of our CBD, our inner CBD is extremely congested, and the idea is to decongest the CBD. Mainly our own buses, even our TBS buses, Tshwane bus service buses, together with the taxi industry, create a lot of congestion because they are parking in the roadway, and we want to split the holding and the loading. So the idea is with the taxi industry that we create holding areas just to the outskirts of the inner CBD. So not too far away from the CBD, so they will incur dead mileage. But we've identified some places just on the outskirts of the inner CBD to create these holding areas. Then the role of the minibus taxi industry. We see the minibus taxi industry to continue its central role. In some instances, feeders and distribution, it works quite well. We've seen it with Gautrain's minibus feeder and distribution services. But mainly in the mainstream of the bus services, for instance, the PTOC subcontracting, as well as in our BRTs, bus operating company or vehicle operating companies, bring them into the mainstream of the system. One can, for instance, take some of the corridors there instead of rolling it out as pure BRT Arayeng type of services. The taxi industry can be the mode to actually deliver that service. What role do we see for bus? Again, a rationalization of our services, specifically the integration of the services between our Arayeng service and the PTOC, the bus contracts, like for instance, Mamelodi contract, but then also between our Arayeng services and our Tshwane bus service, our own services, which are running in some instances parallel to each other, and we financially have to support basically both of them. Then the role of rail. We see PRASA and Gautrain just integrating further. Although it might, one can argue that it's different markets. There is some opportunity for integration, specifically physically integration at Kopanong, Wonderboom, Bellombre, then Pretoria Station, Deneboom Station, Kuduspoort, Hatfield, Pretoria, and Centurion. After all, rail is our backbone. We still see rail and our Arayeng services and so on as the backbone of our public transport system in the city. The role of non-motorized transport and cycling, we roll it out, the infrastructure as we go on, specifically around our Arayeng services, and we try and fill the gap. So the idea is that over time, we will complete this network, and by initially focusing on the public transport routes, then at least we create some possibilities of integration, but then also further roll it out to the rest of the city. Then the role of park and rides, we see the private sector to take hands with the city in order to help with the park and ride facilities, mainly at these transport-orientated developments close to our stations, close to our nodal points. Then smart mobility, just a few words on smart mobility and innovation. We as a city are not the custodians of these type of aspects. Our core business is as metropolitan government to make sure that public transport system is planned properly and that it works. Obviously, AI, electric vehicles, CNG, fourth industrial revolution, all these things, that will come with time. And our partners here today are that's their core business. And we will obviously create an enabling environment where that can be rolled out in the city. But that mustn't be our core business. We must make sure that we as a planning authority roll out the services, make sure that it focus on the integration and so on. The technologies will come with it, and we will obviously embrace the technologies coming. Then public transport facility provision. We in the past, our public transport facilities in major developments, like for instance, shopping centers and so on, was an add-on. From now on, when applications come to the city, we take hands with the developers, and we make sure that off-street facilities are provided and that the developers do take their responsibility. But in some instances, we have to retrofit it. In the case of Menlyn, for instance, which is one of the biggest nodes in our city, and also a nodal point for our Arayeng services, there we have to retrofit it. It took us about 2 years to negotiate with the taxi industry, the two taxi associations concerned, together with the Mainland Shopping Centre. Were very accommodating. That ended up into a contract being signed now, and the construction is taking place. So that facility will I think around about April, May, will be opened, and also alleviate quite a lot of congestion from the nearby street. So there are small wins in our process. We must actually, as a city, realize that we need to reduce the need to travel. We need to make sure that that our land use and transportation is properly integrated, that work opportunities are closer to where people stay, so that the need for people to make use of public transport and spend a lot of time and money on public transport is eliminated. Then in terms of communication liaison, we believe it's important as part of our plans also to talk to all our role players, all our public transport operators, and keep the communication going. So Harry, thank you for that. I think the main thing is that we need to make public transport better, and then make sure that we plan it for the future. Thank you very much.
Lawrence, thank you so much. While you're standing there, that I think it's so complex. If we think you guys as local government, you're the end of all, all the modes should be integrated there. National, provincial, everybody is in your space. You need to integrate and collaborate with everybody. I think it's an extreme challenge, also bringing in private sector and make it work and create a platform for everybody to live in and to move in. I think it's such a challenge. So thank you very much for sharing with us today. We really appreciate it. And I think they're going to bombard you with questions in the panel discussion just now. So thank you very much, Lawrence. We really appreciate it. And we look forward to seeing you in the panel discussion. Thanks so much.
Pleasure.
Ladies and gents, thank you very much for your time thus far. What we're going to do is we're just quickly going to set up the panel discussion, get all the panelists on the set here, and we'll be with you in a few seconds' time. Thank you very much. Ladies and gents, we're almost done. We'll be with you in a few seconds. Right, ladies and gents, there we've got our panel. We've got Michael from the UK, and we've got our panelists you see in here today presenting. We've got Rebecca from Santaku. We've got Tsepo Kobe from Gautrain. We've got Kagiso from KUBA. We've got Lawrence from City of Tshwane. And you're welcome to make use of, the unmute button now, or you can raise your hand, any one of those two. So in Zoom, you can go under raise my hand, and I will see when your hand is raised, obviously, and once I've recognized you, you can unmute yourself and ask a question to the panelists. Or you can unmute yourself. Should you unmute yourself, I'll be able to see yourself being unmuted on my list, and then I will recognize you. You can ask the question. So anybody who wants to ask a question. So while we're waiting for people to make up their minds, there are a few questions. I see the chat room was quite busy. Thank you for nice communication there and networking. That was great. I see here a United Chokos. He said, how are we addressing pickup spots where, for instance, Uber picks up are only at certain entrances at shopping malls, and somehow train station Uber drivers will not pick up? Intimidation to both customers and Uber drivers is a reality and such an inconvenience and security issue to a point where, as a passenger, you get dragged out of the car and told you must use your service, our service, or else. This has been carrying on for a number of years now. So I don't know if the panelists want to take up there between Kagiso, Tsepo, perhaps.
Thank you, Harry.
Right, continue.
Okay, so we actually are in a very advanced stage of sorting out the problem. It is a problem to us overall because the logic of how our service works is that we should have multiple feeder and distribution services, inclusive of e-hailing coming into stations in full. So in actual fact, it's actually a three-way collaboration. So the biggest problem, so first and foremost, one needs to understand where the problem comes from. So the biggest challenge with us not being able to resolve this problem immediately was the fact that the e-hail, in actual fact, the meter taxi associations have sort of disintegrated. So they have no recognizable body that you can engage. So you are engaging individuals, and individuals who, some of them might not even have an operating permit in itself. So that has been our biggest challenge, to be able to try and bring them together. Through Santaco and Santaco Mini, or the Meter Taxi Association that has been set up, we're now able to create a situation where they can be put together into a structure, and a structure that then we can then negotiate with and finalize the issue. What are we doing with it? The biggest challenge with this, it's a function of economics. If you cannot get a new vehicle so that you can then either join, or any of the e-hailing services, by its nature, you're going to fight to keep your current service as it is. We have actually elected in Gauteng Station to provide vehicles and also provide subsidization to a lot of those meter taxi people, but we cannot do it to individuals. It's not possible. We do not engage individuals. We will engage a structure, and in turn, a company that is set up by that structure to sort out all of those problems. We've been engaging with Kagiso here from KUBA to be able to allow us to use his platform to enable that service to function. But we cannot do it, I still say, we cannot do it unless the corporatization occurs. And that Santaco is at an advanced stage of sorting out the problem. The last bits of the glitches that were there, in terms of the registration of the various sections of the population of meter taxis, have then been ironed out, and we're now at an advanced stage to be able to then bring on, not only resolve the problem, but bring on better services in and around Gauteng and in and around most of the areas, because it needs to be holistically sorted out. But we are actually piloting it on the Gauteng services themselves. I don't know if Kagiso or Rebecca, you'd like to say anything?
Sure. I think to add more than anything, it's to attest to the reality that when we started, there wasn't much dialogue. And that's why we encountered some of the challenges that I see a lot of people are alluding to in the chat box. But I think when you listen to the case study of Gautrain, you start to hear that reality of an integrated transport system is known to all of us. But unfortunately, when we started, we're sort of operating in parallel sort of circumstances. But the reality of the matter is we're now talking. And as a result, we're seeing reasonable progress being drawn in individual circumstances, but also collaboratively. So it's not as big of a problem as it was when it started. And we're quite hopeful that we'll be able to work well together moving forth. Yeah.
Thank you, Rebecca. Thank you, Tsepo. We've got Timothy. Timothy, you're welcome to unmute and ask your question.
Good day, good morning, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, it's just hitting afternoon. Thanks to everyone. The presentations from the different sectors, transportation sectors, were amazing. I'm particularly, interested in rail, and I think the last speaker, I think that's from the Mr. Swanepoel from the city of Tshwane was giving, the challenges and looking forward to the transportation in SA. I was also reading the national rail policy. I think that was, issued recently, and I think, and also, so combining those two together, the speaker mentioned that railways is the backbone of transportation, and that's where they're trying to focus. However, from the national rail policy, it mentioned that railways, the infrastructure is quite capital intensive to the extent that the ridership is not able to offset the high operations and maintenance costs. So my question is, what's the plan to look into that and see how, though railways are quite high in terms of operation and maintenance cost, and also railways are the backbone. So what's the plan moving forward to see that even though rail is the backbone and also is, it produces clean energy or clean, net zero, effects, how can we implement that, seeing that though the operations and maintenance costs are quite high? I hope my question is clear. Thanks.
Thank you, Timothy. Back to the panel.
Yes, Harry, thanks for the question. I think the first aspect one needs to realize is the infrastructure on rail side is a sunk cost. That infrastructure investment is the country has made years ago, but it's there. If we as a city had one single mode of transport, we would tend to want to have used our Arayeng services and rolled it out all over the city, and made that the only system for the city. But it's impossible. So we have to make use of this basket of solutions, and let every role of every mode of public transport play its role in an properly integrated system. When talking to the communities, and we go with our integrated development planning process, we go to communities, and the first question you ask them is, in terms of public transport, what would you see, or what would you want? And they all would say, we want rail, bring rail back, put a rail system wherever they, we can link township areas with work opportunities, even in places like Moloto and so on. And because the perception out there is that rail is the cheapest. Rail is the cheapest for the passenger. But obviously for the country, it's a total different story. So, but from the city side, the infrastructure is there, the PRASA is there, our BRT systems are there. There's investments that took place many years ago. And we as a city need to make use of those investment, make use of those services and integrate them into a single system.
Thank you, Lawrence. Appreciate it. Right, we've got Patrick Murathi. You're welcome to unmute and ask your question.
Thank you very much, Harry. I hope I am audible enough, and thanks to the panelists.
Yes, we can hear you.
For their respective brilliant presentations. My two questions are directed to Rebecca from Santaco. The first one is, what is Santaco's relationship with SATCU in relation to the rollout of cooperatives, which was a very brilliant idea by SATCU. Looks like nationally this process of rolling out cooperatives is now running at a very serious snail pace. So what are the plans to ensure that it moves faster? And secondly, also to Rebecca, in one of her slides, she referred to recommendations, and one of the recommendations was that Santaco intends to improve services in respect of training, and their training is twofold. One, that is around safety, which is basically safe driving around the Tlhokomela product or the Tlhokomela project, which we are seeing taking shape in the country. And the second one, which is not taking shape, I just want to check with her, what are the plans in this regard? That is in relation to customer care or customer relations, the relationships between the taxi drivers, queue marshals, and all these people within the taxi industry, as well as the customers or passengers, is very appalling. And in my view, in my observation and my little experience, I don't think Santaco is doing well in that regard as far as the training and the workshopping of taxi drivers in relation to customer relations. What are your plans? Thank you very much.
Thanks, Patrick. I think we want to first appreciate feedback. When you say you feel there's an area that we're lacking in, it is good feedback for us to want to look back at. The training that we're giving, particularly with regards to customer service, we've got partners from the training facilities. Majority of them are private colleges who usually apply for funding from institutions inclusive of TITA. But you would also know that Santaco has a training academy as well of our own. One of the challenges that we're encountering now, which sort of delays the progress that we seek to drive in terms of our training efforts, is that TITA, as an institution that is mandated by government to give funding for us to train our drivers, has got concerns that they're raising to say a majority of our operators are operating as sole proprietors. And that means their taxation is not necessarily how it should be idealized. And that's why at the back of the Lekgotla resolutions, we resolved to corporatize the industry so that we can have properly functioning corporates whose taxation will be in keeping with that. And then from then, we'll start having an uptake in terms of the funding that comes from TITA. So we appreciate that it is an area that it seeks urgent intervention. And that's why the professionalization of the industry in the form of the formation of the corporates is one of our biggest projects that we're undertaking, because once that's sorted, even that conversation about subsidization will start to have a lot more weight, because some of the concerns that are being raised is to say, but the income that this industry is making, where is it going to? Because there's concerns about the taxation to that effect. And I think that immediately takes us to your first question about the corporatization of the industry. When we left the Lekgotla resolutions with that particular resolution, the Department of Transport immediately formed what they call the JTTT. And there's a working group there which is looking at issues of formalization. And one of the partners that are involved there is the CRPC. We also have SARS and many others who are playing in the field of ensuring that you've got proper corporatization. And one of the challenges that we've had, that we've also raised quite strongly as an industry, is the pace of moving in that particular regard has been really slow from the perspective of government. And the understanding we're having now is that they're even considering bringing in business people to help with an implementation plan, which tells us that perhaps since 2020, it's a bit concerning to say, why is it that only now they seem to be wanting to get assistance when we could have gone far? In the presentation, I mentioned that the industry, whilst we appreciate those loopholes, we've even taken matters into our own hands with this agreement that we have with the Department of Employment and Labor, so that they can help us fast track the process. It's going to obviously take a lot more time, as you would understand the size of the industry. And I think that's why towards the end, I also emphasize that we're open to collaboration and we're open to business, because we understand that as an industry, we might not always have all the capacity. And so just about any institution that has the capacity and is willing to collaborate with us in terms of our efforts to corporatize ourselves and also to improve on our service offering is essentially why we're saying that we're open to having more people coming on board. And if yourself also, Patrick, you would want to collaborate with us, we are welcoming just about any kind of help. Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca. Well said. Thank you very much. Hanifa, you're welcome to unmute. Please keep it short. We're almost out of time.
Yeah, thanks, Harry. Excellent discussions and presentations here. So I'm also posing a question at Rebecca with regards to the innovation and the technology in the taxi space. So, I mean, it's very overwhelming in terms of what tech is out there, right? I mean, Michael also touched on different systems and things. So the question I have is how are sort of the decisions made in the organization or in Santaco with regards to what system to go with or what system to adopt? And then are these systems being adopted or rolled out nationally, or is it regionally within the body? And then also, you know, like when you speak to the taxi associations on the ground, you feel like they are not aware of what decisions are being made at a regional or national level. So I do feel like maybe communication down to the smaller associations on the ground, maybe that's lacking. And then also, in terms of the technology, are you looking at improvements to sort of the business model of minibus taxis? Thanks.
Thanks very much. The structure of Santaco is made up such that you've got at the top the national office bearers. These are people who are elected, and immediately after there are 12 people, 9 of them from the 9 provinces, and then you've got an extension of the women's desk, and then we've got cross-border, and then we also have meter taxis. Immediately after that, you've got the National Executive Committee, which is comprised of representatives from different provinces. After that, we've got the Management Council, which we often shorten to the MANCO. That is the equivalent of a parliament, but for the taxi industry. It has representation from throughout the country. So the approach that we take is every endeavor that gets to be considered will first be presented to the national office bearers. And once they are quite impressed with that, we've got monthly meetings that they have, and the parliamentary sort of setup, which is the MANCO, then sits on a quarterly basis. And it's there that things get cascaded down. I think it's actually important that this question is being asked, because one of the challenges that we've identified is people often go to our associations, and at association level, that's where we implement. And so when you go to an association with a fresh idea, unfortunately, all they know there and what they're really focusing on is fleet management, everyday operations. And so you want to approach the national office, which is where I serve at the council level, where you will engage with the national office bearers, and then it cascades down. And that's what we do. And in terms of how we undertake our projects, we always start by piloting. I mentioned, for instance, in the presentation that what we've done with the payment systems is we've been piloting in Gauteng, Eastern Cape, and Western Cape. So we trial first. And once we've identified what needs to be improved and it's finalized, that's when we take it elsewhere, so that it's not too tedious and you find that it's been introduced to a wide range before things can be undertaken from the particular perspective. Thanks.
Thank you, Rebecca. All right, we've got 3 minutes left. Let's go to Ndakona. You're welcome to unmute and ask your question. I can see you're unmuted, but I can't hear you. Okay, well, in the corner is trying. I don't know, Moses and Gumane, you want to ask a question?
Hello, how are you?
Fine, thanks yourself, Moses.
I'm all good, I just wanted to know about the infrastructure, because last month I was passing by a KUBA, so it is our South African consortium. So I saw like finished trains, so they are ready for work, but our infrastructure, it is a bit lacking. So I wanted to know, are you having an implementation dates as to when is it going to start, whereby you'll revamp the train stations, or how? I wanted to know about that.
So it's not my role to answer for PRASA, but I have seen the plan. There is a clear plan, in as much as we all are not happy with the plan and the rate of implementation, but the plan is there. And then I'll explain to you what the big challenge is in the country as a whole. The amount of devastation that occurred during COVID, the entire rail industry itself, it's actually buckling under the load of the amount of work that they have. It is good for them, but when you create a bubble like that in any economy, you actually create a false economy that then will collapse post the refurbishing. Now, we are careful about putting too much capacity into the space that will not be usable in the long term. But with the launch of the National Rail Policy, with it now making rail the backbone of our national transport itself, and with the long-term rollout of programs such as the KZN high-speed rail, the Limpopo Rail project, and the Moloto Rail project itself, we are confident that if we create the bubble, it would actually be absorbed by something else long-term wise. And that has always been our biggest challenge in South Africa, that you create economies that have these busts and that have bubbles and busts that don't function very well. But with proper planning and with what has happened with the National Rail Policy, it allows us to have long-term planning. And as we increase capacity in rebuilding these railway lines, we know how we're going to reuse it later on as we continue with the rollout of the big plans. The plan is there. but it is what they call it. It is buckling under the strain because it is highly specialized work. So it's not something that you just get a guy off the street and try and come in and work on the railway line. People have to be trained, and it takes some time for them to be trained and for them to be to qualify. But we're getting to a point where we're starting to see a lot of lines being rolled out. I mean, the most recent one is a few of the lines in Soweto. The line in Vereeniging will come on stream. A number of the Cape Town lines have just been reopened, and so we continue like that. And Devon still is struggling under the strain of the floods that had occurred there and had hit the place a couple of times. So it is not as simple as just deciding that you're going to reinstate the railway line.
Maybe, if I can just add to this, this debate. We as a city, when planning our integrated public transport network, we actually had to get a commitment from PRASA, because planning is integrated public transport system in a city like Tshwane, not knowing what is the uptake on the side of the suppliers. We at that stage when we started in 2022 with the integrated public transport network, we did not know what is the status of PRASA services. Like for instance, in the Mabopane CBD line, most of the overhead cables and so on have been stolen. The stations have been vandalized and so on. So we had to ask PRASA, can rail be the backbone of our system as we're planning it? Because if it's not, we need to go to a plan B. We need to do something else. We need to maybe roll out some other mode. And the taxi industry was actually the industry that immediately after COVID, when this vandalization took place, they took up the slack. They started transporting the passengers that used to be rail passengers. Now there's I see when rail services come in again with the cost of the ticket, people move back to rail. But the taxi industry was too willing to take up that slack. But we as a city, when planning these services, we need to get a commitment, as I said, that we needed to get from PRASA to say, what is the role of rail in our system? Thank you.
Thank you, Lawrence. Thank you, Jepu. Ladies and gents, unfortunately, we run out of time now. Letlhoko, if it's very short, then we can quickly unmute you and you can quickly ask if it's very short. Thank you.
Okay. Just to add on my question, I wanted to know,
Is it my turn to ask?
Yes, Letlhoko. Moses, yeah, let's give somebody else opportunity now. Thank you, Letlhoko.
Okay, question to Santaco.
Moses, just a moment.
Hello? Can I go?
Letlhoko, you can ask your question.
Okay, question to Santaco. How will taxi management systems, Rebecca spoke about Mobify, Tracker, Tray, etc., systems to improve taxi industry be sustained in the long run, and how will such systems or innovations be ensured by the industry that they do scale up? Given the background that we had a blue dot incentive that previously was introduced to address safety concerns, operations and management in the minibus taxi industry. However, such incentive experience challenges to scale and be sustained over time because of costs that are associated to such systems. So as an industry, how will you ensure that what you're coming out about within the industry will be sustained over time and be actually budgeted for by the association over time? Thank you.
Thanks, Letlhoko. I think first, we need not to be discouraged as and when things are undertaken and they don't succeed. If anything, we draw lessons from that, and then we try to do better as we proceed forth. Everyone, inclusive of the key role players which are operators in the taxi industry, are concerned about the well-being and the sustainability of the sector. And that's one of the biggest reasons why they will see to it that these endeavors succeed. The biggest other aspect of it also is that we're collaborating with established business, and we also have operators understanding that they are making investments with their own money for the well-being of the work that they're doing. projects such as the tracker, we've got a big problem actually, and I'm hoping that the Transport Forum can host a different segment another day about the regulation of our sector, that there's been a big problem now of there being a lot of pirates. There's lots of people who are using more than one license to have vehicles moving around. There's lots of people who are operating vehicles when they haven't been authorized by provincial regulatory entities. But now when you've got proper tracking systems in place, even for associations, we're able to account for every vehicle that's on the road at a particular time. One of the also other challenges that we're having is the emergence of violence. And we've also said repeatedly that we as an organization do not promote that. And we feel actually that there's an infiltration of criminality into our operations because criminals have seen a loophole in how there's very less regulation by law enforcement and to a certain extent, provincial and national departments of transport. And so we're taking matters into our own hands to say, we want to be able to, as an industry, account for the fleets that we've got operating on the roads on a daily. And should it be that we need to be providing reports of all of the fleets, we're able to do that. And that's exactly what these systems are doing. So they are improving our systems, they're improving our workflow. I don't think we would want to jeopardize that which is ensuring our sustainability. Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca.
Yeah, maybe also just to add, I think, some of the points that have come across, I think whether it's the rail questions, whether it's around some of these new innovations that are being put in, for example, in the minibus industry, I think what's important is also, the difference between CapEx and OpEx. I think what has become very clear and what is, I think, top of mind is that we do not need to rebuild a lot of these things. And I think it's really important as we begin to innovate, test, iterate, and learn to be able to, I think, plug in different parts of the ecosystem, I think, into the core businesses of a lot of the transport operators. So I think the question that's been raised is actually very critical, and I think goes back to the whole conversation that we're having today about innovation and the platforms that are enabling that. And I think it's really important that we do change that mindset, that we need to have big infrastructure investments or technology investments rather, to be able to deliver what you need to deliver. I think it's really all about partnering and changing that from a upfront cost to an operational cost so that we can continue moving forward in terms of our ambitions there.
Thank you, Kahisa. Jaap van der Merwe, I see your hand is up. Please make it short. We're well over time. Short one. Thank you, Jaap.
Thank you, Harry. Just a quick comment. The railways game is a density game, as Tsepo will know. So we need to get people onto it to make it affordable. I'm in the National Logistics Crisis Committee, and we have a work stream 3 that deals with the reintroduction of the PRASA service, which is going very well, actually. It's just not quite visible to everybody. And then there's a workstream 6 for the guy that asked the question about financing, which deals with the overall problem of recapitalizing the entire rail system. So within this NLCC, there's some very good people, probably 1,000 in total, working full-time on these 8 work streams. Workstream 7, by the way, security and safety, to try and get our systems back to order. Thank you, Harry.
Thank you, Jaap. Much appreciated. Ladies and gents, before I ask my panelists for closing remarks, what we're going to do, we see there's a lot of questions here in the chat room. Unfortunately, we ran out of time, so we're not going to forget your questions. We will make sure that we're going to take your questions and we will send it by email to our panelists. We will request them, they're nodding, that they're agreeing. They will reply to your questions, and then we will share all the answers we obtained on your questions. We'll share with the audience again. So your questions will be answered by the panelists, but we just will do it via email. We're going to keep the session another 5 minutes live. So those of you who haven't had a chance to ask your question, go and quickly in the chat room, type your question, and it will be addressed afterwards. So that's how we're going to do it. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take closing remarks. Let's start with Rebecca, and then Tsepo, then Kagiso, then Lawrence, and then we're going to ask Michael Hart, our host, to do his closing remarks and close the session for us. Thank you very much from the Transport Forum side, for KUBA for hosting us, for all the panelists being here. We really appreciate your time and sharing your knowledge with us. So let's have closing remarks, starting with Rebecca. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for this important conversation. I want to close with the clarion call. Santaco is headed towards a policy conference in May. And at the very center of what will be discussed there is a way to find multiple sort of solutions towards the sustainability of the taxi industry. Just listening into the questions, one gets a sense that South Africans care about the taxi industry, and we're inviting all of them. I shared my email earlier on. I'm sure you can still do the same. Those that have ideas, especially those from the academic space, because I see that you also have an academic institution that partnering with you, but even those who are in business, we're willing to listen to everyone, all for the betterment of our industry. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rebecca. Tsebu.
For us, really long-term wise will be the backbone of the economy of this, not only this province, but of this country as a whole. And in essence, what we need to be able to do, and talking to what Rebecca was raising now, is that how do you integrate the taxi industry? And that's an important question. I mean, we've already started some of the work as Gautrain, and we've corporatized the taxi associations. We've got them running scheduled services, and what that means is that we've already gotten a long way in being able to create new knowledge of how to sort out some of these things. We're already working with Kagiso from KUBA to be able to say, how do we use those platforms to be able to create a better process with the e-hailing services, and also modernize the meter taxi industry in itself. Now, what it is that in actual fact, it's about us making sure that everything works together. If you were to look at what's called the mobility index, our mobility index is low. It's not low because we don't have enough transport. It is low because our transport is not integrated. And the next bit of it, it's not about us investing more in what do they call it, in capital infrastructure. It's about us getting what we have to work to function well. And then we can then be able to understand where to invest more.
Thank you, Tsebu. Kagiso.
Yeah, I think definitely. I think the common message today, it's really around, transportation will be multimodal. Consumers will choose what services them the best. And I think at the bottom of just underlying everything, it's going to be around collaboration and partnerships, whether from the public sector to, public transport, to private players, whether it's technology providers like KUBA, etc. We really need to get around the table and really solve the transit problem. When you look into the future, we're still going to have challenges of, on one side, you've got commuters who are financially strained. On the other side, you've got earners and drivers that are also financially challenged. And in between, you've got the government, the associations and entities that are operating these services that also need to be part of that equation. And I think it's about finding innovation. It's about challenging existing norms. And that's something that, us as Ubers have really been pushing on, whether it's been around sustainability. We've actually driven forward the transition of several of our products into 100% green products on this continent, in South Africa even as well. And, we'll continue to see this acceleration. And the way we put forward a good picture for foreign direct investment is by collaborating and putting a picture that is attractive. So it's attractive legislation, it's attractive infrastructure. It's also about crime and safety. I think Rebecca spoke about that as well. If we don't have safer cities, we won't be able to have safe transportation, and there's no way investment will come in. So I think we need to come together and ensure that we paint the right kind of future going forward. Thanks.
Indeed. Thank you so much, Kagiso. Lawrence.
I think just on the last word from my side, from a planning perspective and planning the authority side, we must always remember who are we doing this for, and we're doing it for the commuter. At the end of the day, if we don't have the focus of the commuter and the commuter's needs at heart, we will not be doing the right thing. But it's important that we get into forums like this, where the collaboration can start, and that we keep it alive with our coordination and liaison type of structures and so on, and make sure that we at the end of the day do the best for the commuter out there. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Lawrence. So over to our host, Mr. Michael Hart, to kindly close the session for us. Thank you very much, Michael.
Ladies and gentlemen, I attended today with a retrospective of December 2020. Perhaps a little bit frustrated at the the apparent lack of progress. As we close, I think I reflect on a positive and open willingness to collaborate and a huge appetite to bring about the change that's needed quickly. And I'm just delighted that we've been able to host the event and excited about the opportunities that lie ahead for all of us. So thank you very much for joining us today. And I look forward to seeing you all again much sooner than 3 years hence. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Michael. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give a hand to all the panelists. We applaud you. Thank you very much for sharing your knowledge. We really appreciate that. We'll keep the session live for another 5 minutes. For those who still want to type in your questions in the chat box. Thank you so much. Take care. We see you again. Thank you so much.